We had a lot of Joe Denley before lunch.
Well, let us do the...
I don't even remember what he
Here's
what
the
was like. Diddly doubly.
Off spin.
I think I'll just stick with Russ Taylor early in the morning.
He's on 84. Kane Williamson at the other end is on 96. He's been dropped twice today. 2 very acceptable catches, 1 particularly easy. Root's coming round the wicket with a leg slip and an orthodox slip, and it's defended back to him. And there is no run.
How do you do, ladies and gentlemen? This is Orson Welles. I'm speaking for the Mercury Theatre, and what follows is supposed to advertise our first motion picture. Citizen Kane is the title.
Root again. Sometimes when you watch Ross Taylor, he seems to be really leaning on his bat as if he's trying to support himself. He plays this one to Rory Burns at mid-wicket, and there is no run. 211 for 2. New Zealand lead by 110.
Has Angela Gillam been in touch?
Yes, I think so.
Oh.
Down the wicket comes Taylor, getting to a flatter one from Root and just pushing it back to him.
we shall want the bowler, shan't we?
Go for it.
Well, we shall. Well, we'll do if I can find him. He seems to have disappeared. Surely not. He's the captain. Oh, here he is. I've got him. Let's let him bowl this ball then.
Here he comes again. Into Taylor. Taylor drives, and Joe Root moves to his left to grab it.
His voice is high-pitched and ginger hair like a pick, but massive runs he has hit, so there's that. Introduce yourself.
Joe Root. Here is Root bowling a flatter one that is defended by Ross Taylor. Back to the bowler. Back to the bowler. Any lyrics yet for the country?
No, not yet. An attendant Lord asks whether we've ever had a no shit Sherlock jingle in the sofa days.
Ooh, I don't think we have actually. It doesn't ring a bell. Defended back to Root. That's the end of the over. It's a maiden to start with. Taylor remains on 84, and we wait for the downpour.
It may not come.
It may not come, which means we've got to be here till. Oh my god. Well, we should see some really comic bowling before the end if that happens.
Well, I mean, is it declaration bowling? Not really.
No, they're not going to. Well, they're not going to declare, are they? Do you think?
I wouldn't have thought so. But I mean, what are they on now? 100 or so?
110 ahead.
So, I mean, let's say the rain doesn't come. We're only just after lunch. Put on another 150, 200. Have a dart at England after tea, with England having no real chance of getting
well,
there.
they're going to. They'd have to be well out of range. I mean, they're not going to risk in the slightest the series victory, are they? I wouldn't have thought. Oh goodness me, we've got Joe Denley.
It's Butterfingers himself.
He's going to be bowling to Williamson. It will make up for the fact, if he could get his wicket, the fact that he dropped an absolute sitter earlier. This one is short and spinning away.
Joe Denley, he's almost as old as this theme song, but Chef is gone and we need some.
The first ball was cut to backward point. Second ball he presses forward to. There's Dominic Sibley at silly mid-off, who fields, and there is no run.
Angela Gillam is saying that she exiled herself voluntarily, and she still owns a place in London.
Why would you do that? Defended to Sibley. Well, I can imagine why you would do that, actually.
No, there are many good reasons.
There are many reasons to leave Britain. Get the hell out of here.
The fuck out of Dodge.
Indeed, indeed.
Speaking of country lyrics.
Indeed. Driven by Williamson. There is someone out there, so it won't be his 100. It is Zach Crawley, who will have had a memorable match.
Is that one of Hank Williams' finest, was it? Get the fuck out of Dodge.
I'm trying to think what would rhyme with get the fuck out of Dodge. But we'll come back to that.
Hodge.
That's not really a word, is it? Hodge.
That's the last name.
Oh, that's true. In again. Oh, it's a horrible loopy full toss, which Taylor paddle sweeps on the full.
rather nicely.
Did time it nicely.
Yeah.
Got a single for it. Takes New Zealand to 213 for 2. I don't think I can watch this much longer. This is just.
It doesn't seem like you have a choice.
Well, no, that's true. I'm stuck here. I'm
so
pinned to
sorry.
my seat. He's in again. Bowls. Oh, that's a better ball, which he defends, more or less stuns underneath his bat. And that is the end of another pointless over. 213 for 2. Williamson 97. Taylor 85. Anyone else got the hell out of Dodge?
No, actually.
Okay.
A couple of people on Crick Tracker, I think.
Really?
Crick Tracker.
Yeah.
Let's see if it's actually loading this time. It usually isn't.
We're watching some, I don't know what that is highlights of on that machine, but it looks more
Cape
interesting than
Town.
what's here. Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
Who's that padded up to come in? Oh, it's Henry Nichols,
Henry
isn't
Nichols,
it?
isn't it? Old
It was.
Harvey.
Root then continues in, bowls flat down the leg side. Pope fails to take. What does that come off? Maybe the wicket-keeper's pad? Is it a bye? Yes, it's signalled as a bye.
I thought, oh, that's interesting.
Dan DeCastro is saying that Kane knows how to boldly declare in UAE versus Pakistan and so forth. Come on, Captain. Give us a contest.
Well, that would be fun, wouldn't it? At least it'd be fun if he did that. Root in again, bowls to Williamson. That comes off a thick outside edge as he comes forward. And Pope emerges from behind the stumps to field.
If we learn anything, is that there's lots of people who don't think that fun is not the point.
Of cricket.
What we're doing here right now.
Never have fun.
No.
Root in again. Ooh, slapped with a lot of bottom hand. He's going to have to hurry. Oh, he should have been run out there. A direct hit would have done it.
And there's overthrows.
As it is, it's gone right down to long leg for overthrows, and Williamson ends up on 99 rather than run out for 97.
It's starting to look seriously Benny Hill like.
Yes, well, we've got a tune for that. We've got a jingle for that. We've got a...
Not a moment too soon.
What I would suggest to Kane is he doesn't use up all his luck before he goes to Australia. Flat, horrible, and should have been his 100, but as it is, it's picked out Archer at square leg, and there is no run.
He used up a lot of his ducking capacity yesterday.
Oh, he did.
And today he got thwacked on the helmet.
He did. He actually got out of the way of one really well yesterday, the way he limbo
several,
danced
yeah,
under it.
yeah.
And that is going to be Kane Williamson's 100. He swept that one past the man on the 45. It's his 21st Test century, and we have a jingle that will celebrate the very fact.
20, 40, 60, 80, 100.
Congratulations, sir. You are a centurion.
Well, you don't let Kane Williamson off as England have done.
Joe Denley,
Done so
hang
today.
your head.
Well, not just Joe Denley, Ollie Pope.
Ollie
Mope,
Mope too,
as we called him.
Ollie Mope.
Outside the leg stump, tickled into the onside, and I'm going to cough. Someone
you're
cover
right.
for me.
Yes, indeed. Poor old Hendo. 2-24-2. And Williamson has made it to his ton. Ross Taylor still 15 runs short.
I suggest we call him Holy Mope because he's Ollie Pope and he can be Holy Mope.
What is Holy Mope?
Well, holy
Well,
as in he's
As
a
in
pope.
Holy Pope.
Oh dear. Could someone bring Hendo some water?
Oh no, it's all right. I've got beer down here.
Oh, it's good. Well,
Don't
that'll do
worry.
it.
Don't worry. Don't worry. I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine.
You sure?
Yeah, I
You
think I'll be
back
okay.
back in the saddle to carry on the country and western theme.
Bit of Brewdog. That should sort it out. Here comes Joe Denley starting a new over bowling to Taylor. Ooh. Taylor plays a ball that does turn, but still goes through the line and picks out Crawley on the edge, coming in very slowly. They take another single. 221 for 2. Have we still not got any country and western lyrics?
From Darkest Peru it says, I guess I keep a gambling, lots of booze and lots of rambling.
Oh.
It's easier than just waiting for the game to die.
Oh, that's quite
I
sad.
like that.
Yeah, that's quite soulful, isn't it?
That's pretty good though, Attendant Lord.
That is. Thank you, Attendant Lord. That's driven out to deep extra cover for another single.
Jeff Perkins says, Grandma ran the tractor into our distillery shed. Not a lot of damage, just a couple of chickens dead. The booze no longer secure, the wildlife's frisky. Especially now a bear has got started on the whiskey.
Hey, turn that into a jingle.
Very
I want that as a
good.
jingle, Jeff P. That's absolutely wonderful. Of course, if anyone should be expected to come up with the lyrics, it would have been Jeff Perkins, wouldn't
The
it?
Ballad of the Whiskey Drinking Bear.
Indeed, indeed. Here comes.
That is very good.
Was that a good sort of southern accent from
Well,
Toledo?
no, Southern. It was.
Wasn't it southern?
You want to be
Texan?
sort of Texan or
Yeah.
kind of
No, Nashville.
Nashville, Tennessee.
Meanwhile, back in
Nashville,
the cricket, they've got a
Tennessee.
couple of runs. A sweep has been engineered by Taylor. He's moved to 88, 224 for 2. Keep those coming.
good.
Those are brilliant. Those are brilliant so far.
Yeah, that is lovely.
Although I'm sure the singing was. I was a bit disappointed in the lack of melody. in that particular.
You really should be able to do Crystal Gale with that, with that hair.
Gale.
Gale.
Who the fuck is Crystal Gale?
It's Chris Gale's sister.
Chris!
In comes
You'd have to Google Crystal
Denley,
Gale.
driven square by Taylor with some power, all the way along the ground to Crawley, and there is a single.
She was a country and western singer who had incredibly long and beautiful hair.
Oh, but
And she wants to. She
it would
certainly
be
did a-
so much better if it were Chris Gale.
It would be better.
Then the,
I don't know what his country
the
and western singing
chorus,
is like.
the chorus would have been, "Do you get much pussy?"
Now there you go. There's another lyric. This is pushed out into the offside, and they take no run. 2:25 for 2. Crystal Gale, don't it make my brown eyes blue?
Don't it turn your brown eyes blue?
Do you not know that song?
Of course not. I hate country.
Well, me too. But actually, that's
No.
probably quite a nice country song as they go.
I no further than Johnny Cash and the
Oh,
occasional.
Johnny Cash.
I hear
Yeah.
the train a coming.
I like a little bit of Steve Earle, and I like a tiny bit of what's the woman from '95?
Oh, Dolly Parton.
Dolly Parton.
Yeah, Dolly
You
Parton
like
is
a
a
bit of
national
Dolly?
treasure.
Oh, well, I suppose she is. Yes,
Yeah.
that's true. I went to see a tribute band to Johnny Cash a couple of years ago.
What was it called?
Fantastic.
The Johnny Cash Experience, I think it was called.
Oh, that's a
Flicks in the
little
air.
bit-
Is that catch?
has he
Have we got a
taken it?
wicket? Have we got a wicket?
I hope no.
No, it's Rory Burns diving there. Taylor remains undefeated. Must have just dropped a little bit short, or did he bang it into the ground? No, I think it was in the air for a little while.
If you're just joining us, first of all, we want your country lyrics. Second of all, we could use a coup de grace at this point.
We could indeed. Never mind. We've got plantain in the oven. Now that's picked up and swung away, slog swept right out to the Rains Park banner by Ross Taylor for 4.
There would be more food if certain people didn't throw away my ingredients.
Can you believe it? That Chasing Willow made some wonderful soup last night?
It wasn't soup. It
Oh,
was
potatoes.
No, it wasn't potatoes.
bread sauce.
It's bread sauce.
It wasn't bread sauce.
What
it
was
was
it?
bread dough.
Oh, bread dough. Smashed by Taylor. He's going long here. Has that gone all the way? I think it might have done. He's not suffering this rubbish from Root gladly. It's gone all the way. It's taken him to within one
We
of
used to
another
have
test
a
hundred.
beautiful 6 jingle. We
Beautiful
had
6
a
jingle.
wonderful 6 jingle.
We've got several.
It was something, keep on lifting. It was something Dan related. It's really old.
You keep on lifting me higher and higher.
Higher and higher. Yeah, there's
I
that one.
just gotta
that
find
was
it.
darling.
It is in there. Don't worry. It's just hidden. So Taylor 99 now of 183 runs. So they are both going to get hundreds before the rain comes. Root in again. He's going to go for another one. He's smashed it. That's gone all the way as well. He's having a bit of fun suddenly.
Gone out the ground.
And
that
it's
one, I
gone pretty much out the ground. It's got a very fat man jumping
Did
to
you
his
find
feet.
it?
And he's gone to 100, 105. He's gone past Williamson. And I'm just thinking, 466.
I believe in miracles since you came to bat. 60 things.
He gave that the long handle. Oh no, there's a bloke there who's suddenly had to move.
Since you came out to bat.
What's with the tongue though?
He's giving it the
The old Maori.
the Maori
Haka look.
Haka, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Now maybe New Zealand are on the charge here. He goes onto the back foot, just chops this into the offside, and round comes Stuart Broad, who's been kept very quiet today. Now, hang on. Oh, sorry.
20, 30, 40.
Well, he was enjoying himself, I think, because the rain is coming. That's certainly the ground staff have moved to the edge with their little vehicle. In again, and he plays that defensively square on the offside. In fact, I think there are rain spots on the lens
There
of the
are.
camera. It's all going to be over for England soon. The misery
Raindrops. Yeah.
of falling on my camera.
Yeah.
Raining in our hearts.
Have we got any more? Quickly, we need to get these lyrics in. Any more?
No, it's just Jonathan Shoreland saying that he lives 70 miles northwest of Seton Park. It started raining heavily here 20 minutes ago, and I expect the heavy rain will.
Oh, they got
Here
the
it
signal.
is.
They're on the charge. Here it is.
Yeah.
Here he comes, and they don't waste any time.
Dun, 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 dun.
I was just beginning to enjoy that because they were playing some shots. Anyway,
Well, I
they're
think
running
They were
on.
possibly playing the shots because
He needed to get to his
they
100
could,
before
they
the
could
rain
see
came.
what was about to transpire.
Boy Boy Palm says, morning. We're
Morning.
doomed.
Well, we don't think we are
New
doomed.
Zealand to get a 200 lead and England to collapse for 86.
It ain't going to happen. It's going to rain for the rest of the day, we think. That could be it for the winter. Well, at least for this part of the winter.
I've been having a bit of a loving, haven't they?
Diana Patterson is in touch with some lyrics.
Oh, good.
Oh, brilliant, Diana.
Go on.
Oh, I wish the bear were not upon the whiskey. For this calling starts to slur inside the frisky broadcast of the cricket in New Zealand, and nothing can be worse than such talk about Team England.
Ooh.
That's good.
That's pretty good, that's pretty good.
Diana, thank you.
Wasn't Hank Williams tonight the bottle let me down? Tonight the bottle let me down.
Mog is saying that there's a little too much joy in Hendo's anticipation of rain.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry about that, but well, until those last few shots, it had been an awful day for England. They haven't taken a wicket. They should have taken a few because Williamson's been dropped with easy catches. And oh my goodness me, this is the highest partnership for the third wicket for New Zealand against England. 213, an unbeaten stand, and now the covers are going on. The umpire is out there with an umbrella. There's a man completely covered in plastic, and I think that's going to be it, isn't it?
And
Because of this. It's a lady covered in plastic. I think,
Oh, is it?
Hendo. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
The rain comes.
They stopped playing bloody cricket!
They do indeed. That wasn't dueling banjos, but it was Men with Ven. Have we got any more? Have we got any more lyrics?
Let me see. No.
No.
Ravi Nair is asking, he's mixing up formats. So what's the Duckworth-Lewis on this?
Oh, good question. Good question. No idea. Let's look at the New Zealand card. Latham made 18, caught root bowled Wokes. Raval out second ball, LBW to Curran. That seems like ages ago now. Williamson 104 not out from 234 balls. Taylor 105, just went to his 100 a few minutes ago. 186 balls for him. 241 for 2. The lead is 140 now. And I think that's probably the end of this series. And New Zealand have won it, I think we can probably say. Broad none for 28, only bowled 9 overs. Curran 1 for 56. Wokes 1 for 12 from 11 overs. Archer none for 27. Stokes none for 58. Denley none for 27 from 9. And Root none for 23 from 4.
Mark Zip is saying something very interesting. He said he stopped loving her today because they're at his funeral. Who stopped loving whom?
What's that all about?
Mysterious.
Tell us more, Zip.
I think it sounds like it's
Sounds like it should be a country in
Country
Western
and
England,
Western
but there needs to be
link
more.
there
There needs to be more, Zip.
Needs to be more Zip.
Needs to be more
certainly
Zip.
that's been true of the bowling most of the morning.
Okay.
So New Zealand lead by 140, but it seems unlikely that we're going to get on for a while.
And Andrew Rollison is joining our discussion of the weather by saying that we're working on this problem in Australia. We're burning down the east coast of the continent so that it rains in
Less.
Aotearoa.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's probably true. It says rain delay on the screen. It may be a very long delay, but no doubt we'll have to sit here for 3 hours.
And Mog would like some context. What is this really lyrics thing all about? Well, you see, we've discovered that Bear is switched from IPA to whiskey, and that sounded like a bit of a country song.
Yeah. So that's
That
there
the
you go.
Bear's
Mog.
been on the whiskey.
Well, actually, since you Mog and Perko are both listening, I mean, Perko's already written the lyrics. Why don't you send us, because you're very quick at these things.
good
Why don't
idea.
you send us a couple of jingles based on the Bear has turned to whiskey?
Mog, you're being asked to freestyle.
Exactly.
This is the time.
So if you can get those sent to us, we will, even if it's raining, we will come back and play those, and that should make the evening go a little bit more quickly than it is otherwise going to go.
But I won't be singing because I will be cooking.
Can't sing and cook at the same time.
I can think of another.
Suck a dick.
Oh, all right.
I can think of another Hank Williams reference, which
Yes.
would work rather well. One
Oh.
Scotch, one bourbon, one bear.
One Scotch, one bourbon, one beer.
Scotch, one bourbon. Well, this is supposed to be one Scotch,
Oh,
one
see,
bourbon, one
Tony
beer.
wants
you
to
see.
sing. You don't need to eat a dick. Tony will sing.
Relief. Thank you for that. I'm very pleased.
I'm not quite sure
very
how the two
pleased
things
about
are linked, but okay.
I'm most relieved about that, I have to say. Anyway, the score is 241 for 2. We're going to go and eat and see what wonderful things Chasing Willow has put in the oven.
Well, that depends on Tony.
I've
Because
been in
Tony's
here.
been-
I haven't had a chance to get rid of any of it.
Well,
I've
you
been in
threw
here.
away chilies. Chilies are very
I
important.
didn't. I don't
Where did you
recall
put
any
them
chilies.
then?
Where did this thing about chilies come from?
The kitchen. They were in the
Well,
kitchen.
they weren't.
Anything could happen in that kitchen. They might be behind the sofa. They could have gone
The
anywhere.
foxes have got them.
foxes might have had them.
They wouldn't be interested. I saw a few today. They did not hustle me for any chilies.
See any rats?
No, I only saw. I'm very nearsighted.
Lots of rats. in
Anyway,
I saw lots of foxes today. The fox I saw today was adorable.
here. They are adorable, aren't they?
Because
I'm a
the
big
one
fox
before
fan.
that was a very,
quite
very
adorable.
worse for wear.
Oh no,
Yeah.
poor little fox.
And Nakel told me that the way they live is constantly on the verge of starvation. So
Is Knuckles also a fox expert? Added to his other incredible abilities.
he's an expert on everything.
He's an expert on everything, including
Even the
foxes.
things he knows nothing about, he's an expert
He's
on.
a wonderful, wonderful foxes.
you're so nice.
We are.
Yes, that fox was so cute.
So there's one battered fox and one quite
I
good-looking
think there's
fox.
quite a few, but that fox
Battered
was
fox, is that what we've got instead of the instead of the chilies and the bread sauce?
Well, I have to ask you.
A bit
It
of-
wasn't bread sauce.
Go
It was
down
bread dough.
A bit of battered fox and plantain. That's what we're having tonight, I think. Anyway, we shall take a break until we know what's happening with the rain. And if you'd like to get those jingles over to us, Perko, and actually, you might be at work, so you probably can't do it. But if you're not at work,
Oh,
and
we
you can
got
actually
more.
do it. Oh, we
Terry
got more. Hang on.
coffee.
Okay, before we go,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
go on then.
Well, I was drunk the day my mom got out of prison. That's good. And I went to pick her up in the rain. But before I could get to the station with my pickup truck, she got run over by the damn old train.
That's got nothing to do with the bear and whiskey in it,
how
though,
does
has
the
it?
bear fit
Where's
into
the
that
bear?
then?
You got to
I
work the bear and
think
whiskey in
that's
there.
the bear's reaction to
Why
her
he's
getting
drinking
her
the
Oh,
whiskey.
why he's gone to the whiskey?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
fair enough. Well, you need to write another verse then, don't you?
Okay.
Yeah, we
that
need
was
a
Terry
chorus.
Coffee. Thank you,
Well,
Terry
Terry,
Coffee. That is good.
But we do need a chorus to go with that, I'm afraid. You can have verses. Verse, chorus, isn't it?
That tends to work.
Yeah,
Tried and
and
trusted.
Yep.
Mog is saying, does the music need to be country?
Yeah,
That'll
come
be
on, Mog.
interesting.
You are adaptable. You are flexible. You are a man of many, many, many talents.
Yes.
So it does need to be country and western. Yeah.
He-
I'm sorry, but I don't want a disinterested handjob version of the bear has turned to whiskey.
Would it be quite
Um,
interesting? actually,
well, it
to
would,
have
I
sort of a
suppose.
thrash metal version.
But you probably
of
wouldn't
it.
hear the word.
Mog, we want your acoustic side project. Unfortunately, not disinterested
I
hand job.
think the bear-
Much as we enjoy the grindcore stylings thereof.
Indeed.
Joad Jan is with us on Crit Checker, and Biswat Kumar Jitu has just said hi, probably joined us and gone, what is going on?
Well, nothing's going on because it's raining, I'm afraid, at Seddon Park in
But,
Hamilton.
Biswan Kumar Jitu, if you happen to have any country and western lyrics in you, send them our way, and we'll do our best to feature them.
Yeah.
It needs to involve a bear and a bottle of whiskey. That's
Yeah.
all we need to go on.
And Mog is asking whether worse for wear has to do with a hard night on the booze. I don't know what the foxes are into these days. Maybe they are teetotal, but that one looked worn, as though someone had been wearing it.
Would someone have been wearing him? Oh dear. That is a bad look for a fox, isn't it? It's really sad. Well, I mean, they can't be the two that you were photographing the other night, can
I
they?
jolly well hope not. Cause
No, they were in decent.
Those were adorable.
They were in good nick, weren't they?
The one that I saw that was lovely was heading for the residence, so maybe that's we get the finest
my
of the
team.
fox kinds.
Maybe they fight him off. Maybe the poor old one that's worse for wear has been sort of being kept out of the garden or
It's
something
not
like that.
Johnny and Ben.
No.
No.
Not the two
No.
we had in our garden.
No.
No, indeed. Any more tweets, or shall we take a break?
I think we're gonna take a break. But
gonna
let me
take a
see.
break.
Oh no,
Let's
we
do that.
have
Oh,
we
Lord.
have
More
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 Terry
lyrics, go on.
coffee. Yes.
More from Terry Coffee.
Yes. And I'll hang around as long as you will let me. And I never minded standing in the rain. No. But you don't have to call me darling, darling. You never even called me. Well, I wonder why you don't call me. Why don't you ever call me by my name?
Still no mention of the
Again,
bear and
where's the
whiskey.
bear and his whiskey in there?
Well, there could be heavy drinking in the background of any of those.
This is all the backstory about why he's drinking whiskey.
But
This is the point.
we need the chorus about the bear and his whiskey. So
That is the prompt.
But it's been
the
very good
prompt
so far.
is bear on the whiskey.
it's been great so far.
Any
but how we got there?
combination of bear and whiskey.
I might even go and write my own while I'm
Tonight the bottle let it
while
down.
we're waiting. So just to prove it can be done.
Yes.
All right, shall we line up some highlights?
Oh, that's a good idea. I need to be in here somewhere, don't I?
There
What
must be
shall
something
we,
there.
What do we fancy?
What are we going to listen to?
Shall we try a bit of
Vintage
what's
would
really
be
going to
nice.
grip people? Ireland versus Oman?
Yeah, why not? That was it. That was the T20, wasn't it, from about
I think
18
it
years
was.
ago?
May take forever to load. Oh no, we should be all right. And then I go up here, don't I?
Yep.
Ireland versus Oman. Here we go.
Okay.
My brother's on
Knock yourselves
Wednesday
out.
talking about Nuts in May and how much he enjoyed
Bloody
that.
Gary
in the
again.
70s. But I think this is a film of an old man, and that sounds terrible, but I think it is a film of a man who's old, about a man who's old.
Okay,
and it's horrible.
But what I was going to say about Maggie Hambling, and this would be my problem with Turner as a subject, but it takes nothing away from the film necessarily, I haven't seen it yet, is that she was saying, that she never goes on holiday, that she paints every day, and that I thought it reminded me of people that are obsessive netsmen and cricketers, that she just can't afford to have a day away from the easel, just in case it's a good one.
Yeah.
That whole thing about being in the zone. Anyway, she was then talking about some of the work that she's done. She has a controversial piece on Aldborough Beach, which is a tribute to Benjamin Britten, and she works in Suffolk a lot. And she was saying about how much she prefers Constable over Turner, simply because with Constable it's so much more about the subject, whereas with Turner it's so much about him. And it's true, isn't it the case in the National Gallery, in that lovely kind of octagonal, tiny room, where Turner said that he would leave his works to the gallery for free as long as his works could always be opposite those of, I think it's Canaletto, to prove how much better he is than Canaletto.
Yeah, they shared a
what a wanker.
They shared a bit of subject matter. I'd only heard that he'd left his works to the nation as long as they could be shown together, and it took about 100 years for the Claw Gallery to come into being at the Tate. I remember when it opened, and it was a lovely experience walking around, because you got that abstraction with them all together. It really did feel like kind of Rothko and...
I was going to say, very much so.
I'm very much enjoying this discussion. Not so much for the content, but the fact that it's really pissing off the cricket geeks.
Sorry, geeks.
Well,
Should I get back to Pip?
What's the geek saying?
The geek says, "Sweet Lord, this is absolutely horrifically, appallingly middle class, more middle class than a Mike Leigh movie."
No, I'm just going to move it a notch.
Mike Leigh. Well, I'm going to defend Mike Leigh. He doesn't.
Exactly, and Turner was hardly middle class.
Anyway, the other tweets. Michael Wagner says, "I didn't say greatest movie ever. I said greatest Christmas movie ever."
That's a very big
asks a
accommodation.
very good question. This Turner movie you're going on about, does it still star the original Hooch?
Very good.
I don't get it.
Turner and Hooch.
It was a terrible,
shocking
dog film.
Tom Hanks vehicle from the mid-80s.
Tom Hanks and dog.
Surely the best Christmas movie ever is, without a doubt, Trading Places.
Trading Places is good fun.
Yeah, Trading Places.
The best Christmas movie.
Yeah, it is. When
it's all based around Christmas, isn't it?
Yeah.
I can't comment on that. Actually,
Johnny Gielgud is in that, of course. I think he won an Oscar for it.
Oh, Johnny.
And I showed yes, because every now and again you come up with something.
Twitter, if you don't give grief to Gary about him calling John Gielgud Johnny.
Dear Johnny Gielgud.
Sir John.
I found
Dear Johnny.
I found the spitting image of 6 centuries of verse, which is actually Tommy the Tank Engine Goes to Tooting, and it's the spitting image puppet of Johnny Gielgud reading poetry, and it is so funny. Bar Black Sheep, have you any word?
Okay, I'll see if I can find it.
So funny. It works as an oral sound or an audio soundtrack, but the actual pictures of Johnny Gielgud as a spitting image puppet reading it is hilarious. So if you want that, now I'm going to go up a little bit from into kind of perhaps upper middle class territory now, because one of the other things that Cineworld does is it has live direct broadcasts of opera from the New York Met. So I went to see Il Barbiere de Sevilla, and it was
I read your review.
Oh, did you? Oh, yes, of course, you're an opera man.
Oh, I tell you what I found here.
It wasn't long, but it was really. I mean, the singing was sensational.
I tell you what I found here, which is just answers so many of our needs. And that is Sir John Gielgud reading from the A-Team in the original Latin. Oh, surely we've got to have a bit of that. Please, Bear, can I have a bit of that?
Oh, God.
Okay, all right, brilliant.
A Booker Prize at bedtime. Sir John Gielgud reads another excerpt from the A-Team in the original Latin.
Annibal omnus supartae ponficus. Mr. T. Kapow! Kapow, 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 kapis, kapis.
Is that for spitting image?
Yes.
Vorum summa paribus succa zac. Dugga, 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 dugga. Dugga, digga, 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 Soon there we are to Sumaru Cantata suckers. We splat, we splat.
Okay, let's get back.
You've got 10 more seconds back. Come on.
Egg. Next week, Sir John Gielgud will be appearing through a hole in the floor.
Spitting image was good. Right, we're going to get back to the bloody cricket now. Come on.
Bloody cricket?
Getting so high bloody class.
High bloody class. I love it. Listen, art just crosses all classes.
No, okay, we'll do it.
Could I have a coffee, please, Tintin? Oh, go on.
Could I have one too?
Pub says Gary Naylor calling it as it is, the new Barry Normal. I don't know if that's autocorrect or whether he's saying something there. 2 Ton 10 says, did Katie just call JMW Turner a wanker? Yes, she did.
Yes, there's good cause for that.
And Mog says, if you can talk about boring English artists, can we do Peter Bruegel as well?
Peter Bruegel, the elder or the younger?
Pieter.
I have no idea.
Specify.
He was Flemish, wasn't he?
He was Flemish, yeah.
Okay, let's get off bloody artists.
Yes.
And
No,
we're back to cricket.
let's not. Even if it's just to wind the bear up. Come on, all your art historical questions, please.
For me.
Let's call it art. Yeah, for the bear. Instead of the bear does science, let's have a section, the bear does art. Come on, cricket geek.
That's down leg side. The first ball of the new innings. We have a bowler who's left arm over, and he just battered. So we'll have his jingle again.
Shall we?
Yeah, go on.
I don't understand.
It's okay, Penny. You have Bolt.
You must be so scared. Bolt's not scared of anything. Bolt!
Bolt is about to be unleashed.
And the batsman is...
Oh, sorry. So I was just being a bit paranoid because Tintin wouldn't catch my eye. Yeah.
Tell us what happened on that ball then, Bear.
I did tell you, it went down to the boundary for 4 runs. The next ball is played back up the pitch. He thinks about a single. There's a diving stop for a man at mid-off, and there is no run.
Kiwi Callie says, how much happier do you lot sound when you're not having to commentate on England being woeful?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, England were.
The Cricket Geek says, Gary is also mates with George Osborne, but he spelt Osborne wrong, so... Miller, yeah, twat. And cricket fan Jim says, best cricket films are Die Hard and Elf.
Elf gets a lot.
I don't know whether that's one film, Die Hard and Elf.
Elf gets a lot of good reviews.
Into the legs, swinging for Bolt, and he's played out to long leg with Sodie Fields, and it's 1 run.
Would you like the batsman now?
Yeah.
Your attention, please, for Mohammed Hafiz, consolidator or aggressor, great in a one-day, utility player, and always called the professor.
It can't be often that roles have been reversed so quickly. It wasn't so long ago Mohammed Hafiz was bowling to Trent Bolt, and now it's the other way round.
The other batsman is...
Would you like him after this ball?
Yep, we'll have him after this ball. He's left-handed, he's opening, and his first ball he's played out to point. There's no run. It's this man.
Shah Massoud was born in Kuwait in October 1989. Less than a year later, Saddam Hussein invaded. Coincidence? Yeah, you keep telling yourself that.
It's one of the more esoteric jingles, it has to be said.
I love it.
The worst one is Ross Taylor. That's down leg side. That's a very strange one.
It's brilliant.
It's odd. It's 4. That was angled down leg side, and Shah Massoud just helped it along its way past the keeper.
Great first over.
9 for none. Next time to chase
Yeah.
Taylor, trail by 330.
We've already alluded to some of this, Katie, by placing Turner as the first modernist and before Cezanne. Do you hold with the kind of Clement Greenberg theory that all art leads to sort of abstract expressionism?
What the hell? There's a big appeal for OW. Shut up.
I know. I couldn't resist it.
I think
you love Greenberg.
I think that's missed the pad on Shah Massoud and caught him just above the pad on his thigh. A big appeal by Bolt. Ross Taylor seems to be shaking his head, but it looks like they've reviewed it. Upstairs. Looks like they may have reviewed it. Ooh. I think it's going to be umpire's call. I think it pitched in line, and I probably hit him in line, but I think it might only just be shading leg stump. I don't think it was turning and coming back enough off the seam.
He does bowl at the stumps, though, Trent Bolt.
Let's have a look.
Oh, God. I've just made a whole jingle disappear.
I was deafened.
And I don't mean that. I mean the bowler's review. Oh God, Tintin, please help.
It's just in the audio wall. Just search for it. It's
I lost Zulifka Barber's Pulunk jingle.
What?
Yeah.
Disappeared.
That's
Katie's
hitting on
favourite.
the top of the roll, just above the knee.
Umpire's call.
Oh, I think it's going to be clipping the leg bail here, and umpire's call.
It's going to be umpire's call. Looking to see whether it hit the bat. I don't think it hit the bat.
Don't think it's hit the bat. He's slightly falling over to the offside, so the bat is coming across the ball, as it often does with the left arm early on. And he's only on the crease,
trapped on
though.
the crease. He is trapped on the crease.
He's got no balance at all. It's hit him hard on the knee, and he's holding it. In fact, he's gone down.
He's gone down.
Because the knee has hurt there. And there is Dennis Wilson lookalike, Brendan McCullum, there.
Chewing away. We watch it in real time.
Okay, I've found it.
I think it's flicking leg stump, is it?
You can just drag it over to the space that you take it from.
That was definitely out. Was that definitely out? I don't know.
Umpire's call.
Oh, that looks
just umpire's call.
Oh,
by a couple of
leg stump.
It's hitting leg stump.
It's a fibre of the yarn on the seam of the ball.
Yeah.
And they lose a review for that.
Decision upheld. It's quite harsh, really.
It is harsh. But they've got 330 runs ahead, so, they've still got plenty to work with.
Yeah, they have indeed. It was a good ball by Bolt. The first over went for 9. How did Pakistan chase this down?
I'd like a slightly different jingle for Trent Bolt, because one of my favourite scenes ever is in Young Frankenstein, where Peter Boyle is the monster, and he sings "Putting on the Ritz." And of course he has the bolt from Frankenstein. Put on the Ritz.
Mog7734 says, so then, Bear, Rembrandt, wanker or knob end?
Rembrandt, don't really know.
Rembrandt, amazing.
Peter Miller says, hashtag Bear does art. Thoughts on three studies at the base of a crucifixion?
No, don't.
Michael Wagner says, can we have the other Bolt jingle, please?
Yeah.
Well, yes, but I can't find it. It seems to, and is that just because I said that I did the one that we played?
It's the one. It's next to it, isn't it?
The Cricket Geek says, not Fred slagging me off when he's misreading almost every tweet is a highlight already. Knuckle Pandy says, is that John Sessions with a Gielgud impression? Also, you lose gain art points depending on your pronunciation of von Gogh.
Well, the Bear has bacon on his mind, but it's Sunday morning bacon and not Francis Bacon, I think.
Very good. Where's that?
Yeah,
that'll be true.
Favourite artist, Bear?
I don't really have one. Dali.
Adele?
Dali, how embarrassing. I knew you were going to say Dali. Dali or Klimt?
That's.
Clint was great in.
We have a new
in the
bowler.
Western.
Shush! Crying out loud! Calm down, people. Jesus. We got a new bowler. It's this man.
Oh, sorry. I was still thinking. I was still thinking about how typical it would be that you say Dali. Sorry.
It's only a whimsical notion to fly with Tim Southey tonight. I probably won't fly with Tim Southey. And again, I just mind.
And the next ball's outside off stump, left alone by Hafiz through the keeper and there's no run.
Michael Wagner says, look how late the ball leaves Bolt's hand. No wonder he hurries batsmen up.
Oh, I tell you who else you'd like, Bear. Who's that 18th century artist? I think he was a friend of Blake's, wasn't he? Who inspired loads of Iron Maiden and all Grateful Dead covers. Now, I'm sure it's Iron Maiden. He was a sort of fancist in lots of apocalyptic scenes.
I kind of like Bosch. Weirdly,
No. 18th century, and he was a Brit.
Yeah. Weirdly, I kind of like Rothko. That's
well, you'd like Turner then.
left alone outside of something. Swings after it's gone past the bat, and there's
Which
no
is
run.
bizarre because the Cricket Geek has just done hashtag Bear does art. Favourite Rothko?
Wow.
Well, you've got to have the 6 Seagram murals all at once in the same room as I saw them at Liverpool's Albert Dock about 20 years ago. And it was very moving.
I love
really
the idea that someone does a commission like that.
I went to the Tate Modern when it first opened, and there are things in there that just make me go, what the fuck?
You do surprise me there.
Tintin's doing excellent work here.
The bricks.
Bricks, lobsters in a fucking pot, what the fuck is it all about?
They'd be
Left alone outside the off stump.
You mean sharks in a tank, not lobsters in a bloody pot?
No, there was one of the there was a lobster telephone.
The old lobster telephone is very famous. That's Dali.
But still, it's shite.
It's so funny because when I was living in Paris, when I was about 22 or something, I had a year off from university, and a friend of mine, it was a bit of a vulgarian game state. Quite like you, Bear, really.
I'm timing this anecdote. 22 seconds in.
He was absolutely obsessed by New Model Army, I remember. One part of the reason he came to visit me is that they were playing in Paris.
That's a little bit of swing, and Fees gets inside half of the bat, goes out towards mid-on, there's no...
Anyway, I was living there with my sister because it was her year off, and we thought, he's called Rocky, what on earth should we do with Rocky, kind of during the day, because he's a bit of a pisshead, and we just thought we wanted to do a bit of culture. So we thought, brilliant, we'll take him to the Pompidou, because, somebody that's a bit of a vulgarian, one imagines that they prefer modern art just because it could be a bit more fun, less sort of, exactly, Roy Lichtenstein, basically a bit more fun than just like dead white men in suits,
driven at by Fees. It was a wide ball and he chased it, but he kept it all on the ground. It's gone to third man for one of these.
Please let me know that Fred doesn't give me a hassle about this forever and a day. And anyway, we went there.
Is the punchline going to be you took a bus?
And he said, no, we went there. No, the punchline has the word tits in it. And we went there, and he was just like, whatever. Except he wouldn't have said that in 1991 because, whatever is a new invention. And we then thought, oh, God, we just can't win. Look, we'll take you to the Louvre, but just because at least you can say then that you saw the Mona Lisa. He went in. And he saw the sort of Delacroix and the Géricaults, etc. And, he just came out saying, it's like blood and fighting and gore and tits. That he preferred the Louvre over the Pompidou, like the old classic art than the modern, any day of the week.
At least there's a skill in actually drawing.
Well,
that's through to the keeper and there's no run. I mean, just sticking something in a bloody box and calling it art. I could do that. My son could do that.
Oh, no, that's not the point there. Because, look, let's get into this one briefly. But, anyone, frankly, can paint as well as Vermeer if you give them enough time. It's a skill that can be learnt.
But it's only the pomposity of what you say it's worth is what it's saying, isn't it?
Huh?
Well, I say I'm an artist and I do this pompous shit. That's gone. There's the first wicket. Shah Massoud has not really put himself out this series. He's done not a lot, and that's a great ball by ball. It's sharp, and New Zealand are really on this. They want this over today, I think. It's a good ball on off stump, line of off stump, and he's fenced it as Massoud. He's been caught. There's 3 slips in there. They're going for it. New Zealand.
No foot movement at all.
No foot movement.
Didn't want to get
on the
behind
street.
that.
There's 3 slips and a gully, and he's been caught third slip. First wicket is down. They are 13 for 1. Well, this is GorillaCricket.com, brought to you by HB Properties PLC and Katie's Art School. And
no, it's Claire's Art School.
Well, my art school says
he's being schooled.
There's a plink. The new batsman will be Azhar Ali. Yeah.
Shall I try and find his jingle?
Yeah, he's in there.
It's been rather distracted.
It's a good one.
By the argument that I'm creating for you, Bear.
My name is Azhar Ali. Nobody I'd rather be.
What I find about going to the Louvre is that the Géricaults and Delacroix are so fantastic. The Raft of the Medusa and stuff like that, and they're so overpowering. And I think they're in the first room when you go in. Everything else appears a little bit
afterwards. Yeah, you're right. That is the room, isn't it? The Raft of the Medusa, and also it's got the one on the other side with Marianne.
Over the barricades.
Exactly.
The kind of Davids in there are quite good, but you can almost see sort of modernism, sort of from David to Delacroix. The two are so different.
They are, and I think the Angra is absolutely beautiful. I mean, it's just I love the mix between east and west that he does, and then that Matisse takes up is just glorious.
Ball into nice shot, flicked off his Azhar Ali's pads as it's in towards leg stump. It goes out towards the cow boundary, really. It's chased down by Danny Vittori, and he'll pick up 2 runs to get himself off from that.
But Bear, what I want to pick up with you is that I promise you, it's one of those things like Gladwell would say, is that give anybody, intensive art lessons. After a while, you could produce something as beautiful as Vermeer. It's just fact. And so therefore, once everyone knows how you can acquire the skill, it's just about application. It then becomes all about innovation. And so that's what you should be looking at, not the actual kind of technical skill that it took to create the lobster.
Well, you see, I'm a scientist, so I think the technical skill is more important. And it is in the eye of the beholder, isn't it?
But if
so
it's to a penny...
that's left alone through to the keeper and there's no run.
But if it can be to a penny, as opposed to thoughts, which we live in the world where we think that, creative ideas can't be, then, it shouldn't have any value.
Well, no.
In comparison.
That's one of the things that does my head in about art, is the value attributed to something.
I don't necessarily mean monetary value either. I just mean
I mean monetary
status.
value.
Right.
That one is played out to point and there's no run. It just pisses me off that some piece of garbage gets sold.
I have an inkling that we may never agree about this, even if you put us in a room for many years.
There's a great line in John Cooper Clarke's Gimmicks, isn't it, where he says, teas maids, commodity art, things that are the things, beauty aids, cushions that fart, the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
And he calls it all gimmicks.
I want that as a jingle, please, Alex.
Cricket Pixie says, most often argued subject on photography message boards, what is art and photography it?
Right.
A good picture is a good picture. That's played out to point and there's no run.
A little anger story, because we mentioned it earlier.
I love anger.
Is that friends of mine, I think, set up a software company in the late 80s. I think these people I went when I was doing maths at UCL, bizarrely as that sounds now. How did I end up doing that for a year? Anyway, they called it Angres, INGRES.
Yeah.
But everybody else who they worked with called it Ingress.
Oh, yeah, well, but I do think, and I often...
They put it over the entrance.
Very good.
Of the various French boyfriends that I've had, I've always said that that's the French word that's the most difficult to pronounce. And they always say you overdo the...
Roy Pump says, I've stopped listening to Guerrilla Cricket.
Oh, sorry.
It's all gone late night BBC.
That's a bit. We're going to get back to the cricket.
And Two-Ton Ted says, having just seen Tintin on the set, I can just imagine Katie saying, ooh, young man.
What?
Tim Southey's in to bowl. He's getting a little bit of swing as well. It's away from, swings a little bit away from his. He plays away from his body and it's out to point, cover and there's no run.
My current reading matter is Ian Nairn's reissued Nairn's London, all about different parts of London, the architecture and the history and stuff. It's fantastic. And Ian Nairn is an extraordinary kind of cultural commentator, mainly about architecture and stuff like this. He's he's actually Jonathan Mead's hero, and he has a bit of Jonathan Mead's about him. But in the preface to that, he makes this real sort of rallying call to say there is no such thing as high art and low art. There is just art, and I agree 100% with that.
To a certain degree, yes. That's way swing up, and it starts way too wide. In fact, it is given as a wide. I don't see many of them in Test cricket, but that was genuinely very, very, very wide, bowled by Southey. It does seem that Kiwis have their tails up. They realise that they're in a very strong position to win this Test today. One was down already.
That was a terrible ball. It was almost closer to the batsman when it left the hand than when it went past him.
Yeah, true. Started wide, went wider. There's a little bit of a breeze, I think that's what it's intimating, because they show us a flag that's kind of dribbling around in the wind. Oh, now that is an absolute peach of a delivery by Southey. It's on that corridor outside off stump. It's pitched and it's gone off the seam. A little bit of swing. Beaten her feet all ends out. He was lucky not to get a nick on.
I mean, that was both 1979 there. He went wide on the crease, pitched it off, and it held its line. It's completely unplayable.
Yeah.
Eagle Scooter says, happy Sunday all. Any chance Katie's mic could be turned down just a tad?
Yeah, sorry. Also,
I'm getting distortion often when she speaks. That's not distortion, that's actually what she's saying.
Yeah, no, because Gary keeps asking me. This I've noticed from the other day. This is a much quieter cans than these ones over there. It needs to be fixed, otherwise everyone will think I have got a loud voice, but that it's inordinately loud.
That's another good ball left outside the off stump of Fees. Good line and left alone.
Is it Tintin? Is there anything you could do? Also, if ever there were a ball that required the Jaffa jingle, it was the one before last, and I can't find it. Yeah, where is it?
Is it in Quips?
It's somewhere now.
Warrior Pump says, is the bear as big a Philistine as he appears?
No,
you've worked in all kinds of creative industries.
5'9", isn't he? And Katie had to work in when I was living in Paris.
Well, I have lived in Paris quite a lot, sorry.
And it makes a change from when I was living in the Vatican City.
Yeah, exactly.
Chick wants to know if Bear was more of a Tony Hart or a Johnny Ball fan in his younger days. Bear does art, Bear does science.
Johnny Ball, that's played out to point and there's no run. That's not, I don't appreciate pictures and stuff. I mean, I guess my biggest bugbear with the art world is the value that's put onto things.
Well, it's funny because friends. I was about to say my super rich friends, but I don't. It's not a very nice thing to say. But anyway, my super rich friends, they've all started buying art.
Yeah.
It's really weird how it's a commodity or seen as a very, very successful, healthy investment at the moment.
I'll give you a reason why it's not.
Right.
The next ball.
Well, it is amongst people who believe it is, and that's a philosophical question. That's played out to point. And there's no run. I mean. People who believe that art is worth money will therefore pay a certain amount of money. And there will always be a certain people around the world who have shitloads of money who agree that that is worth something and therefore will collect it, and therefore the other person is prepared to pay more, and in 10 years' time they'll sell it and make a profit.
When there were storms...
That's the market, unfortunately.
When there were storms in New York a year or so ago, I think it was, the damage was superficial as you expect in New York, but it wasn't superficial for people with commodity art because it was stored mostly in cellars, underground, climate controlled, and they flooded, and damage was considerable.
Insurance companies probably have to pay a lot of money. That's paid up to mid-off and there is no run.
Short First Slip says, how rude of Trent Bolt to interrupt another Katie anecdote with his cricket nonsense.
Sorry, no, Short First Slip is not a fan of mine. I don't know what I have to do to win you over. I suppose shut up and not appear on the programme.
Could we find, while Trent Bolt is leading the New Zealand charge here, could we find Putting on the Ritz from Young Frankenstein? Because it is a fantastic sort of 30 seconds of film. It's Marty Feldman and Peter Boyle and Gene Wilder, and it's when Frankenstein's monster, they're trying to integrate him, I think, into society.
Here, I've got it originally, but you presumably don't want the original 1930s.
No. I want it from Young Frankenstein.
Okay.
Jack Powell says, spent much of the day at the beach. Everywhere I move at present, some sand falls down my leg.
Bowl, another peach of a ball. This one has gone straight on. It hasn't swung into the batsman. Hafiz has played for swing. I think it's Hafiz facing. No, it was Azhar Ali was facing. He played for a bit of swing and it went right across him.
The idea that I'm pissing Short First Slip off and at high volume is just absolutely unconscionable. Is there anything you can do about this, Mike?
You just turn it down on the desk.
The Cricket Geek says, Bear does art on Guerrilla Cricket is my new favourite thing. Yeah, that's because it's crap.
Just say here that
Bolt comes into bowl and it's defended out to cover and there's no run.
Katie's got ready to play the sequence from Young Frankenstein, and just looking at the picture, there is Peter Boyle's about a foot taller than Gene Wilder.
Yeah.
They're both in black tie, or is that black tie, Katie? Or you would know better.
White tie, isn't it?
White tie, and they're on a stage.
You so planted that question for me, by the way. You totally know what the difference between black and white tie.
Oh, I'm not very good on that sort of thing, Katie. They're in front of a curtain like Morecambe and Wise.
Bolt comes into bowl. Azhar Ali defends into the offside and there is no run.
On a stage, and we're about to hear their rendition of Putting on the Ritz at the end of the over. Can't stop laughing
Nakul
already.
Pandey says, or Nakul Pandey as we should call him, happy to hear Gary Naylor is a fellow UCL alum. Was he as pissed off as I was at the demise of the Garage Theatre?
I don't recall. It may have been before my time, but UCL does have the Bloomsbury Theatre, so they're not badly off, really.
Was this the one we were talking about, Nakul, where I saw Electric Six play live? Because I saw it at UCL Theatre.
That's more my level. Their one's played out to mid-wicket and there's no run. You get on to music.
Danger, high voltage.
Although, modern music.
Oh my God,
Not a big
fair.
fan of
I wouldn't have thought.
Nakul Pandey says, what next? Bear does comparative linguistics?
That will never happen.
Oh no, I tell you what I'm dying to hear about,
I did a course in comparative linguistics at Birkbeck.
That's very impressive, bloody hell. I had a very, very, very alcoholic lunch on Friday with...
Bolt comes into bowl. Oh, it's beating the outside edge of the Azhar Ali's bat again. There's another peach of a delivery. New Zealand all over Pakistan here.
It's a different game.
It is a different game. Well, it always is. They trail by 323. They've got to bat for 6 sessions to save the game, essentially. Because they're not going to create enough runs to be able to win them. I mean, they've not really gone over 3 runs and over for the entire period they've been out there, and they're certainly not going to try and smash it around to catch up when they're an innings behind, essentially. So it's going to be very delicate play from Pakistan. No great speedy scoring. I'd be surprised if they're beyond 180 today, and if they get stuck in a rut, it could all be over today. Bolt comes in, bowls, and has already defence from the crease out to cover, and there's no run.
Okay, it's the end of the over. Here is Young Frankenstein, 1974, Putting on the Ritz. It has to prepare. Sorry, I should have prepared it. Here we go.
If you're blue and you don't know where to go to, why don't you go where fashion sits?
And Frankenstein's monster.
Different types who wear a day coat
with the bolts.
with stripes or cutaway coat, perfect fit. Dressed up like $1 million trooper. Try mighty hard to look like Gary Cooper. Come, let's mix where Rockefellers walk with sticks or umbrellas in their midst.
Well, there we are. I think we'll come out of it at that point. But
the next ball is bowled by Southey, and Fees again plays away from his body, and it goes out to point. There's no run.
It's the idea. It's a Mel Brooks film, of course. How you end up with Frankenstein's monster doing a tap routine to putting on the wrists is very, very good.
Wrists. Woy Pop says, and Katie has to work in Super Rich Friends. My humble St Helens roots have never felt more apparent. Yvonne sends us a picture of the most expensive photograph ever, sold for nearly £5 million.
What was it? Who was it? Was it William Eggleston?
God, look at that.
Is it William Eggleston?
That looks like one I took at the beach last week. That one's played out to point, and there is no run. Why is that the most expensive photograph
Well,
ever?
it'll be who took it and the body of work it's from, etc.
I mean,
I know. Was that kind of annoys me because that looks like one of my holiday snaps.
It looks like that. You remember when they built that rowing pool at Windsor for the Olympics? That's what it looks like. Just a stretch of that.
That's appalling. How come that went for $5 million? I'm sorry, it just annoys me.
I used to work for London College of Communication, and they have a lot of sort of art photography courses, and I never really got art photography, but I always got photojournalism. I'll break off.
Yeah, interesting subject. That one is put out to point by Fees defending from the crease. There's no run.
I used to give a lecture on the work of Lee Miller, and we started off with kind of Man Ray's photographs and the kind of technical innovation that was around at that time. But his photographs of Lee Miller are absolutely fantastic, and they are sort of in that area between commercial and art. But then once you get onto Lee Miller's war photographs and some of her work itself, obviously it's even better, or at least for me it is. So the life of Lee Miller, Man Ray, and the photography associated with their work, I think, to me, does show that photography can be art.
Southey comes in bowls, not a good ball on the stumps. A little bit of a way swing, defended by Fees, no run.
And the Lee Miller biography, it's excellent. I can recommend it, but I really did find it quite hard to get past the photo section because she is literally, I think, the most beautiful woman I've ever seen.
Oh, do you?
Oh, yeah.
Do you fancy her even more than that girl on University Challenge last season?
Yes, even more than the Manchester.
Woy Pom says, apologise. He spelt Katie wrong in his last tweet. He says it's 6:25 a.m. in Porto Alegre, and I was on the piss last night.
That's fine.
Short first slip has the
good man. I like it. Driven by Hafiz, nicely driven away from his body. He's playing away from his body. Hafiz. There's a chance here that he could make a mistake.
Short first
to cover, no run.
Slip punctures this bubble once and for all.
Oh, don't.
He says, catch you guys later. If I wanted an art lecture interrupting my enjoyment of cricket, I'd call my ex-girlfriend.
I think we know where there's a bit of baggage. I think there's a bit of baggage there.
But on the other hand, Etiek says, well, if we've done science and art, then Bear only needs 4 more wedges to win Trivial Pursuit.
Very good.
Literature. I like science fiction. Here we go. And Lord of the Rings type stuff. That's driven up to extra cover and there's no run. Although as I get older, I kind of like autobiographies.
Do you like Gormagast?
So, Cricket Pixie says, hang on, we did films earlier, entertainment, that's 3. Geography next.
Geography?
Possibly.
Definitely my weak spot. Actually, I'm going to leave geography to go and have a tab and let Artie fin. And basically, this is a slight white flag to you, short first slip. Please stay and listen. I'm sure the tenor will change now.
Yes, and I'm going to take over the ball by ball, so I'll be talking less about other stuff as well. So
we'll get back to talking about cricket.
Yeah, I mean, would you believe it? We're gonna act guerrilla cricket, a ball by ball internet commentary service about cricket. We're actually going to talk about the cricket.
I've been trying.
We're trying. Hafiz now has 206 runs in the match and is miles behind, 323 behind, as Trent Boult comes in. That's a full half volley, and it's slashed to third man by Azhar Ali, who gets himself one of these.
These? Didn't want to miss one of the rear boundaries.
And at least one Pakistan cricketer's turned up today, because we've got Atif.
Hey, good morning, guys. How's it going?
It's going all right.
Yeah, I was listening to your discussion this morning, guys. I was just thinking about that Brendan McCullum innings, where he got that 200 plus, and the way he played. And if he was an artist, you'd visualize him just throwing random bits of brush strokes at the canvas.
Jackson Pollock.
Yeah, that's
Jackson
it.
Pollock.
A full-on Jackson Pollock style thing, Whereas right now the Pakistan team look like that guy that do four faces in the corner.
Yes, this is outside off stump from the impressive Trent Boult, who has 1 for 15 in his 3.2 overs to date. I'll give you the score. Pakistan are 20 for the loss of 1 wicket. They trail by 319 runs.
Mog7734 says, can we do Lords of the Rings trivia, please?
Yeah, for shizzle, let's do it.
No, we can't.
Come on. It's fine.
I'm not reading
I
that.
read it twice.
Load of bull.
All of it?
Yeah.
That's a long read.
I read it as a kid when I was about 15, and then when I went to Australia, I had nothing else to do, so I read it again.
I think as Trent Boult's in, he's over the wicket left arm. It goes past the off stump of Azhar Ali, and there is no run. I could never read The Lord of the Rings twice, because once I got past the age of 15, I realised that women do exist in the world, and the world's more interesting if women are in it, unlike Middle Earth, where there don't seem to be any women at all.
Of course there are.
There's some foxy
Eowyn.
Yeah.
Eowyn? Yeah, Eowyn, yeah.
1 in 1,700 pages or something.
She does have those weird elvish ears.
Trent Boult's in, and this is way outside off stump, and untempted was Azhar Ali. No run.
I tell you what, if you're talking about Lord of the Rings, one thing I didn't enjoy about the movie, and it's not a great deal I didn't enjoy because I loved the movies, but it was Viggo Mortensen's portrayal of Aragorn, who would become king. Spoiler alert.
Oh no, I haven't watched any of them.
Well, don't worry. I'm
not going to.
I suspect it's not up your street. No. So anyway, it's just the way he keeps pronouncing those made-up words with this faux accent.
Outside off stump, and that absolutely died in the pitch. It bounced before it went through to BJ Watling. If he gets that on target, not going to be able to play that.
No.
I tend to look at running times when I go and see films, because I can't be bothered to sit in the cinema for more than 2 hours.
It's a Godfather. It's a Godfather.
Oh, come on.
Well, maybe, yeah, but it's just sitting with a bunch of arseholes. I mean, and that's just my friends, basically. Who wants that? That's horrible places, cinema. It's really horrible.
Well, yeah, but I mean, a film like Lord of the Rings, it's going to be entertaining. It's not going to be highbrow, is it? I mean...
Well, I mean, you say that. The third one won an Oscar for Best Picture.
It did, but the end of the third one went on for way too long.
Yeah.
Round the wicket is Trent Boult.
Body delivery! That's a peach!
Oh my God.
It is an absolute peach. It's the first one round the wicket from Trent Boult. It looked like it was going to be outside off stump, and therefore Azhar Ali left it alone. But it began to swing in and then seamed him viciously, and has bowled him neck and crop.
He left it.
This happened in the last Test match, and it was called back for a no ball.
On your bike, mate.
Wow.
And if there are any young bowlers listening or indeed watching, when they say aim at the top of off stump, that's
what
why.
they're talking about.
You're absolutely right, not Fred. I think it was the same way he got out on a no ball in the previous innings.
Yeah, he was. Was him? Was it?
It was.
It was. I think from almost certain it was him, but I could be wrong. Maybe somebody will correct us on Twitter.
I hope Michael is still listening. Michael.
We're going to speak to Michael at lunch.
Oh right. Well,
he's a happy man.
He's a big supporter of Trent Boult, and one has to say that this has been as impressive an opening 4 overs from the New Zealand left armour as one could imagine.
Especially out here. I mean, this is the 5th Test match we've watched in the UAE, and the seamers haven't had a lot of luck. Apart from Rahat Ali in one spell, we didn't take any wickets in the last game. They struggle out here.
Well, you've got to use a new ball. It has the proud seam and it's hard. And what Trent Boult has done is he's been pretty much on the money all the time. So even when it's slightly wide of off stump, the batsman's sort of edging towards it because he knows that most of the time it's on off stump. And we have the stalwart of Pakistan batting at the crease, and we'll give him his jingle.
arms to hold someone you care for.
The look on Azarani's face as he watched that hit his stump and looked at the wicket and thought, what?
That's not what I wanted for Christmas.
No, the clatter of the timber. It's never a pleasing sound. Always so much louder when you're batting than when you're bowling. I know you're further away, but I always think that's a little unfair.
He's looking at the pitch thinking, hang on, that's not. I've been on the ground for 3 days. I've been looking at it. It's never done that before. What's going on?
It's good bowling. That's what it is.
Exceptional bowling. That's very good.
And here is the Bugs Bunny-like Tim Southey, who's bowling to Mohammad Hafiz, who, rather like in the first innings, is standing tall while all around him collapses. No run on the leg side, was off the inside edge.
Leeds Sheep Wiggy has joined us. Morning, Wiggy. Reminds us subject we discussed earlier about an umpire being killed by the ball in Israel yesterday after suffering a heart attack after being hit by the ball. A rough week for the game. It certainly is.
Indeed.
Mog7734 says we should include the Silmarillion and the 10-volume history of Middle Earth.
Ooh,
no,
God, that's hard read. That's a hard read.
Misplaced Childhood by Marillion. That's more in my line. It's a great album.
Here is Tim Southey. He's up to the wicket and he's on off and stump line and is given the respect he deserves by Mohammad Hafiz. No wrong.
Not their best album, which of course was Clutching at Straws, as everybody remembers. Ravi Nair says, finally cracked open my first Peroni, so I'm ready to face the world. Hello all! Lord of the Rings trivia, yay. Or nay. I have anything to do with it.
Hello, Ravi. It's always nice to hear from him.
It'll be afternoon for Ravi.
Yeah, will be, yeah.
And Woy Pom says, is it me or Lord of the Rings? Is Lord of the Rings a bit boring?
Oh, God, it's boring.
I couldn't finish the trilogy and I'd fall asleep in the films. No depth.
I don't know about no depth. I think it takes a lot of investment of time and thought. Yeah.
Southey's in, is on off stump. There is no run. If you're looking for a trilogy, by the way, with an element of fantasy about it, certainly in the top 10 books I've read, and possibly the best book I've read about London, is The Borrables, which starts out off, it's a trilogy of books, it starts off as a bit of a kind of parody of the Wombles and then turns into something completely different, and I can recommend The Borrables enormously.
Philip Pullman's the whatever it was.
It became a little bit self-referential towards the end.
It did, but I like
too Paradise Lost.
The first book was very good.
First book, Golden Compass, something.
But the film was terrible.
Yeah, as Southey's outside off stump, and he that ball held up a bit towards the slips, but it was Mohammad Hafiz who's seen it big. Obviously, he went through with the stroke, even though he didn't have great footwork. It hit the middle of the bat, and it went to the extra cover boundary for one of these.
2 + 2 is the number.
That's a typical shot that looks great when you middle it, but it doesn't look too good when you edge it to slip. Yeah, because he wasn't quite over the ball, but that allowed him to free his arms, and therefore, it sort of sped away.
Short first slip says, speaking of Lord of the Rings, the elven-eared Trent Bolt strikes.
Aha!
Yeah, okay, fair enough. I see that connection. Yeah. Can I move it from the movie trivia to some sports stuff, if that's okay?
Yes, please.
Tim Southey's outside off stump, no run.
Did
you guys catch the? Well, it's not too far away. Did you guys catch the match last night, boxing match?
No.
Tyson Fury took out Chisora.
Did he?
He did, yeah.
I heard the first 3 rounds on TalkSport, and it was the worst presentation of boxing I've ever heard.
It's a dark day for boxing.
Was there no high art in it?
No.
Very, very little.
Right, while Katie's just popped in, I've got to mention the snooker as well, because the UK Championship's happening at the Barbican Centre in York at the moment, and I was so thrilled for a little while to see the return of Jimmy White. And of course,
Tooting's Jimmy White.
He lost, sadly, 6-2 in the end. But, hey, Nigel Bond, what a comeback. One of the greatest comebacks in the history of sport, has to be said.
Probably not.
Here's Southey again. He's outside off stump, no rumble. Tell me more.
So hold on, he was 5-0 down.
5-0.
5-0 down, comes back to win 6-5, and this is against a much more highly fancied opponent, Barry Hawkins. It was a beautiful comeback. Did you catch any of that, Katie?
So, yes, unusual results in snooker. Discuss. I'll leave it there.
Or not. Leeds Sheep Wiggy reminds us, and me particularly, talking about movie running times, that we watched Once Upon a Time in America together, which is 269 minutes long. It is, but it's a fabulous film.
It's a fabulous film. James
Still
Woods,
a bit long though.
Robert De Niro. It is a bit long, but I mean, the canvas is so enormous that it warrants the length. Sergio Leone's Meisterwork.
It's over 50 years of Sergio Leone's Meisterwork. Good question. Tweet us with your answers.
Once Upon a Time in the West, of course.
Once Upon a Time in the West
is the other one that would be in there.
The good, the bad, and the ugly.
I don't know. Did he make the good, the bad, and the ugly? Sergio Leone? He might have done.
Sergio Leone.
Yeah, and he made the other two, wasn't he? For a fistful of dollars, for a few dollars more.
For a few dollars more, I think is the best of that.
It was the last one, wasn't it?
The Man with No Name.
What about Hang 'Em High? Who made Hang 'Em High? 'Cause that was weird. They made us watch that in school, right?
Really?
Yeah, just as part of some kind of film thing. And it was appalling. I just couldn't understand why this was considered cool in any way.
Now, they're moving the sight screen here for Saudi going round the wicket. I just wonder whether the leave of Azhar Ali might have been caused by the fact he didn't have the sight screen moved. Trent Bolt actually going.
Should have sight screens on both sides.
But the sight screen movement for Trent Bolt going round the wicket. And he pins him. LBW is out. That was a full delivery. It swung in. I think Yunus Khan's going to refer this because the swing was enormous, and he's got to review this. He's got to.
Well, the umpire's cool. If
it was a Wakar-like, and he is reviewing it. It was a Wakar-like toe crusher, but it's bowled left arm round the wicket. The ball is
right arm.
left arm. Yeah, the ball is moving a long way. I think this is missing leg stump.
I don't think so. I was definitely in. Were you definitely in?
No, that's plumb. That's hit him in line with off stump, or just inside the line of off stump. It's going to hit head and leg.
Come on, dodgy DRS.
I think he's reviewed it, not because.
Well, it may have hit him outside the line.
Well, this is what I'm saying is that
I think it's hit him cool on both things.
If it's hit him in line with that kind of swing, it's missing leg stump, and if it's hitting leg stump, it's hit him outside the line.
Actually, it looks like his back foot is way in front of the crease there. He's batting well outside the crease.
Oh, it's hit him outside the line. This will
be interesting.
It's a gorgeous delivery, though.
It was tremendous delivery.
But I think he has to review it, even if he thinks he's out, because of the position that Pakistan are in.
Yunus Khan would have to review any decision where Yunus Khan is batting.
You're going to use your reviews on Yunus Khan.
Bit
If you've got any
like
chance of getting
Twato.
away.
Yeah, look, it's miles outside.
Impact.
Well, it's umpire's call on impact. It's umpire's call on the leg bail. Now, that is about as far away from a good decision as you can get, really, because it's been upheld, but it's hit. The ball has hit the outside of the pad, or the umpire's call on the off stump, and then it's hit the absolute limit of the stumps on umpire's call.
But they lost a review earlier in this innings where the ball was smashing into leg stump, according to
and that was a golden duck actually from Yunus Khan. So well done, Trent Bolt there, but. I mean,
you have to say, in real time, it looked absolutely stunning.
No, it didn't to me. I think it hit him outside the line of off stump.
When I saw that in real time, I thought that hit him just above the boot in front of a middle stump.
I must confess, I felt the same thing. In any case, yeah, I mean, the way he just kind of fell over, the way that ball came in, the way everybody went up, the noise, the atmosphere, it felt like it was. It just felt like it was.
Well, it's very good of you, Atif, because we don't have a dog in the fight, and you do. And I thought that was a.
Well,
I thought that was a very big decision for the umpire to give that out. And of course, had the umpire said not out, and Trent Bolt reviewed it, which he definitely would have done, it would have been not out.
Yeah,
well, it's brought.
That's the DRS for you.
It's brought this man to the crease. Our skipper, what can he do?
We love him. We hate him. He's dreadful. We rate him. It's Misbah ul Haq. He's our captain, you know. But he scores far too slow. It's Misbah ul Haq.
Yes, the man who scores far too slow has the equal fastest 100 in Test cricket, I think. Is it equal fastest, or is he a ball?
Equal with Richard.
And the fastest 50 in Test cricket.
But that shows Misbah ul Haq. He's got to 53 tests. I think he made his debut in 2001.
That's right.
Was he? And
he's sat it out for 10 years nearly.
A truly extraordinary stat is that Misbah made his debut in 2001, and he was older than Philip Hughes on Philip Hughes's sad demise earlier this week. So that goes to show just how young Philip Hughes was.
Isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much wrong with that LBW decision. I mean, I'm not blaming the review system here. I'm blaming the umpire for giving him out, as first ball from Misbah is dealt with rather better than the first ball that Yunus dealt with the first ball to him, because he's not out after leaving it to go through to the keeper.
But hang on, Gary, if somebody's bowled and it just clips the leg bail, he's still bowled.
I agree, but I think umpires there are giving him out a little bit, thinking, well, he'll review it if it's marginal, because the umpires there's got to think about, has it hit in line, is it going on to hit the stumps, and there's doubt in both instances.
Yeah, but when you see it in real time,
which which.
Well, when you see it in real
easily
time,
be
it just
given
looks
out.
absolutely stonewall.
As next ball is left alone, no run.
What we didn't appreciate was how far he was batting outside the crease when we saw it originally, and that made a massive difference.
And
to the
also,
decision.
because in real time he fell over and it looked like, you know.
The umpire can give it or not give it. It's not the worst umpiring decision, obviously, that we've ever seen. I just think when the ball has swung that far round the wicket, left arm, you've always got in your mind: is it hitting them outside the line of off stump? Is it going to go on the hit the
I thought,
the leg stump?
yeah, my original,
outside off stump, no run.
My original thought was it was much fuller than it was, and
Yeah.
all these things. It's watching it in real time.
Yeah,
the umpire only gets to see it once.
Yeah, and there's a lot going on with Eunice there. He was falling over. He was trying to show that his pad was outside leg stump, and lots of different things. So there is, and the umpire does only get to see it once, but he's only 20 yards away.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. You watch that in real time, you think, Jesus Christ, that's totally
I'm sure
fun.
we've all put on that umpiring lab
it's
coat,
so
on the
so
Sunday.
difficult.
It's really difficult just then. And I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I always tend to just err on the side of caution and not give them out unless I'm dead sure.
Not give your teammates out.
Yeah.
I've never given an LBW in a game. Yeah.
What? You cheat.
Trent bolts over the wicket now to Misbah. It slides across him to the 4 predatory slips, and one of them does field it at third slip, but the edge was with soft hands, so it went all along the ground.
We haven't seen 4 slips in an innings.
Is that Andy Flower?
Tests.
The Grant Flower?
Nah, he's looking more and more like James Treadwell.
Yes, he is.
Michael says, my wife has read the Silmarillion and even learned to write runes. Cricket geek and literature geek. Nakul Pandey asks, is the bear a Terry Pratchett fan?
No, actually, I'm not.
I tried to read one of his novels, couldn't get into it at all. As bolts outside off stump, left alone, no run.
Adam Etchek says, Bear does geography. What's the bear's favourite Caribbean country?
I've only been to St Lucia, and that was very nice.
And Subtle Knife says, The Golden Compass, The Amber Spyglass, and what was the other book in that trilogy called? I've no idea.
Yeah, exactly. It started getting really odd in the last one.
24 for 3 at Pakistan. They're so far behind, it's almost immaterial at the moment. Mohammad Hafiz is standing firm as he did in the first innings. Sham Masood was caught Saudi bolt for 4. Azhar Ali bowled Bolt, leaving it alone for 6, and Eunice first ball given the somewhat dubious LBW by again Trent Bolt. Well,
Who
Bolt,
had
Trent
the
Bolt.
LBW overturned? Was it Bolt as well?
Yeah.
I think.
No, well, it wasn't overturned.
No, I mean he had a very good shout for LBW.
Yeah,
not given,
it was.
And they lost a review.
That's-
Even though it
so
was smashing
that was
in the
against
leg
Sharp.
stump.
Are you thinking what I'm thinking?
What?
No.
10 for Bolt.
Oh no, a long way away from that. If a seamer takes a 10-fer in Sharjah, then really things are very, very strange. Southie's on off stump, defended by Mohammad Hafiz, no run.
I tell you why I say that, because I saw a very strange thing in the first innings, which was Mark Craig taking 7 wickets. So if he can take 7, there's no reason Southie can't take 10.
Craig, he's got a decent record. He's
Well, I think up until that innings, he didn't. Really didn't.
Well, he's keeping Jeetan Patel out of the side. And Jeetan Patel is a fine
He took 8 wickets in the match on his Test debut against the West Indies and won the game and got Man of the Match award. So he's
Okay,
very good.
He just doesn't look very. Yeah, that's the point.
No, but he's got better, I think, as the series has gone on.
I'm not sure if Jeetan Patel is available, but he's a fine spinner, and he's not in the side. As Mohammad Hafiz, who's in decent form as his scores in the series show, has just pushed that to mid-wicket, rotated the strike, which is very important when you're up against it, and helps himself to a single. He has 14. Misbah will now take his first ball from Saudi.
But it's often the way with spinners, I say this bitterly, that they have to be better batsmen than seam bowlers do.
Yeah, I agree. It's unfair.
And often the better batsman will get the call, even though he may be the inferior bowler.
And we can cite Monty Panesar in evidence.
Well, yes and no.
Yeah, well,
Monty's played a lot
Monty's
of Test matches.
Yeah, Monty's good away from home on spinning tracks. He has a lack of variation.
And Phil Tufnell wasn't very good with the ball. He got a lot of games.
Yeah, that was a different era, though.
There are a lot of people I can think of
yeah.
over the years. Ashley Giles, who should never have been playing for England.
Oh, Ashley Giles was. Well, I'll come back to Ashley Giles in a moment. As Misbah wide on the crease goes Saudi, and Misbah defends a fullish ball, no run. I think what Ashley Giles was good at was being the fifth with the Fab Four. I think he complemented them so well because he would allow them to rest. He didn't give much away. He had a great temperament, good team man.
Couldn't turn the ball, though.
Well, he didn't. He turned the odd one, didn't he? Get
the very odd one.
But because he had those 4, it was just such a perfect match. He was absolutely the right man.
Plugged in a lot of people in that slot.
Ooh, I don't know. Well.
He turned himself to an alright batsman as well, didn't he?
Yeah.
That's why he
scored them when they were important. So Southey is full on off stump, no run.
I once tried to prove statistically that he got runs cheaper than other people, but I actually went through the records and it was just about the same as everybody else.
Was it?
So they were, he averaged a similar amount.
That 50 at the Oval was worth a bit.
Yeah, well, so was Paul Collingwood's 10, but.
True, the 50 was worth a bit more, though, I think. And
10 in 90 minutes to keep the Aussies out.
Yeah, it's fair enough. Got him an OBE.
Subtle Knife says, comebacks in snooker. Stephen Hendry 14-8 to 14-18 to win the 92 World Championship against Jimmy White.
Yeah, but
poor old Jimmy.
18, he wasn't on the cusp of victory.
Southey's full and he's on off stump and Misbah's not looking to attack. He's slightly playing for lunch, which will be in a couple of overs' time.
Of course, Stephen Hendry made himself one of the most hated sports people in the world by keeping Jimmy White away from that world title so many times.
And Stephen Hendry, he let everyone down. He said that he would leave the country, wouldn't he, if there was a Labour government, and then didn't.
Well, he lives in Scotland.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's leaving the country, isn't it? Yvonne Cricket Pixie said, confesses huge love for Terry Pratchett. Fantasy needs humour to work for me.
Yes. There's a certain kind of humour in fantasy that you either get or don't get, I think, and I never quite got it.
I'm a bit dark.
As Southey wide on the crease again, which has proved useful to him, but he slides towards the leg side and therefore Misbah is able to just lean on a ball that was on his legs and help himself to a single, get off the mark from the 9th ball that he faced. Pakistan are 26 for 3 now. There's probably a couple of overs to go before we go to the lunch break.
I'm just going to dip out so I can sort out lunch.
Yeah.
And if you're talking about books, I should mention the last Booker Prize list. There was a Pakistani. In fact, the last 2 Booker Prize lists have included a Pakistani author as well recently.
Well, there's a strong tradition of literature in
it is.
In
there is, but
Pakistan,
it's branching out
subcontinent. But
absolutely branching out into English language literature now, and it's really strong. I mean, Mohsin Hamid's book, How to Get Filthy Rich in Rising South Asia, a bit wordy, I know, but he's from the Hendo School of Book Titling. It's a great read. I would recommend it. The whole book is written in the from the first person, and you never get to know the names of the characters, but it's still so engaging. It's unbelievable.
And I don't want to bring us down into politics, but when one's talking about Pakistan and literature, obviously this week there's been a somewhat extraordinary to westernise sentence been handed down in the world of art as Trent bolts in and this skews off the outside half of the bat to point where it's fielded, and the New Zealanders are having some fun trying to get the ball back to BJ Watling. Is literature completely free? Is one? I mean, obviously there's the kind of the fact while we remember in those particular circumstances, but one obviously hopes that with the kind of tradition that that part of the world has in literature, that writers feel free to write about anything.
They do, especially with the advent of self-publishing and smaller publishing houses, and because media is more freely available. Absolutely. I mean, one of the more popular books was Muhammad Hanif's A Case of Exploding Mangoes, which was highly critical of General Zia-ul-Haq's government of the 70s in Pakistan. It's a beautiful read. It's also about kind of army life, Pakistani culture, and just how the Islamification of that country happened. It's just a gorgeous read from start to finish. I can't recommend that book enough.
You really ought to talk more about this, and I'd be interested sort of in the green room getting a list of some stuff, because you're English graduate yourself, aren't you?
Yeah, literature graduate. Yes, indeed. I mean, I preferred kind of old English classic texts, but now I'm really getting into the Pakistani tradition of literature. I've read a lot of stuff recently, and Nadeem Aslam as well, Kamila Shamsi, of course, who's a celebrated Pakistani author.
Round the wicket is Trent Bolt, outside off stump, no run. I look forward to getting a kind of top 3 for me to explore on my fake Kindle. I have a Nook rather than the Kindle.
Yeah, I mean, Pakistani literature has now got to the point where it's almost pop culture. I mean, there was a Hollywood movie made about the book The Reluctant Fundamentalist, which I must confess I didn't enjoy the movie at all, despite my very good friend Mr. Riz Ahmed starring in it, opposite Kate Hudson. So
oh, really?
He's just a boy from Wembley starring in a movie with Kate Hudson. It's crazy.
As Trent Bolt's wide of off stump, and there is no run here. This is his 6th over, and a bit of tiredness, I think, in this over so far from Trent Bolt. His line was so good early on, and that made the batsman play and put demons in the batsman's mind. Those demons were sufficient for Azhar Ali to choose not to play the first ball delivered from round the wicket, and his off bail went as a result of that decision. But Trent Bolt here, Misbah will be very happy to see the ball outside off stump as he plays for lunch. This one is outside off stump, no run. You'll bowler all day, Mr. Bolt, before Misbah is going to go for it. He's not Shahid Afridi. You may have noticed
that in the first innings, hanging his bat out.
Yeah.
Did he?
He did. Different circumstances.
Very different.
But what I'd like to see for nice symmetry in these two series is Misbah to score the slowest Test century of all time now.
Yes, wouldn't that be good?
Wouldn't it be amazing if the same guy held the record?
This was the sort of position New Zealand were in when Brent McCullum made his 100 earlier this year.
Yes, that's right.
They were way behind on first innings and staring
5
down
down.
the barrel. Yeah,
5 down. I'm not sure he's got enough time to make the slowest 100 in Test history. He may have.
He'll have to farm the strike a bit.
Is it still Mudassar Nazar?
It used to be Mudassar Nazar. In my mind, 522 minutes, but I may be wrong in that. Do you want to look it up? Not Fred.
We will. Slowest Test 100.
Mudassar Nazar used to play for Cheshire in minor counties cricket. This is a decent ball from Trent Bolt back over the wicket to Misbah, but Misbah's wise to it and defends a ball that would have taken legs off stump.
Slowest 100 is 557 minutes by Mudassar Nazar.
557, I wasn't too far off.
Pakistan versus England, Lahore, 1977.
Yes, I think they made 146 or something on the first day. Extraordinary, really.
None of the top few are in this millennium.
As Trent Bolt's outside off stump and playing at that ball that he could have left alone was Misbah, but soft hands made it skew to the gully all along the ground and no run. So 26 for 3, 11 overs gone in Pakistan's second innings. They're still miles and miles behind, also known as 313 runs behind, and there's just 1 over left in this session, which is a very good one for New Zealand. They got on with it. Some excellent batting from Mark Craig in particular, but Ish Sodhi showed that he's no mug with the bat, as his record suggests. They got up to 690, broke their own record in Test cricket by 10 runs, and have fired out 3 Pakistan batsmen, including the very adhesive Azhar Ali and the impressive Yunus Khan. So they'll be thinking about closing this out today, but got to take 1 wicket at a time. And in a tradition of English spinners, actually, prior to Graham Swan, the spinner is being brought on for the last over before lunch. Have we got a jingle for him? I think
we most certainly do.
It's long.
Bravens did, Stoker did, Chris Gale did, Mark Craig did. He hit his first ball for 6, his first ball in Test cricket for 6. After just 1 ball in the Test arena, he was the greatest batsman that we've ever seen. For a moment he was the best of men. Now he bowls off spin, bats at 10. His whole life's been down.
Well, that turned. His first ball, it was on off stump, and riding the turn was Mohammed Hafiz, and just tucked it off his pads. There is no run. I've no idea how old Mark Craig is. He looks like he's about 35, but I can't believe he is. His next ball is defended. Could you look him up? I mean, he may be one of these spinners who's been knocking about domestic cricket and sometimes comes through, as indeed Ashley Giles did at 28 or so. But I don't think the beard's doing him any favours, but he doesn't look a young man, put it that way. Must have had a tough paper round.
27 years and 252 days.
So he's pushing 28, but he looks more like he's pushing 35. And this one is pushed towards the off stump, defended by Mohammed Hafiz. No hot towels though, so all's well.
Spinners don't tend to be at their best till they're about 32.
Oh, I think Derek Underwood might have had something to say about that.
48 in my case.
Yeah, I mean, I think spinners can be at their best at different ages. They can certainly be fully effective well into their 30s. As Craig goes on off stump, it's defended to the man at extra cover. Playing against the spin was Mohammed Hafiz. Now, playing against the spin is very much an English thing to criticise. I don't think they're too bothered in Australia. They've never been too bothered on the subcontinent about playing against the spin. But we don't like it in England. as next ball is about off stump, just turning gently. Looks more of a roller than a ripper, does Mark Craig to me. And Yunus Khan looks on there thinking, I could have had 100, I could have had 100, could have had 100.
We're about 15 minutes behind on tweets.
Yeah, we'll give them at the end of this over, because that'll be the lunch break. Craig's in again, and this is a little shorter, and that's a beautiful stroke from Mohamed Hafiz. He just rocked back, he waited for it, and he cut the last ball before lunch for 4. He has 18, Pakistan have 30. They've lost 3 wickets for that. They trail New Zealand by 309. We'll be back with ball by ball in 40 minutes time, but in the lunch break we're going to have some tweets, and then we're going to have a conversation between Michael and Atif.
That's correct.
Evil Scooter says the difference between Yunus and Twatto reviewing every time they get out is that Yunus has earned the right by being great. And he also says that surely as an example where a failed batting review should be given back, tend to think of it more on the bowler's side. Andrew Dunford says, I love everything about guerrilla cricket except having to wait 15 seconds after a wicket falls to be told it has fallen. Oh, that's a bit harsh.
Just pause your TV and then, yeah.
Mog says, I have a giant ass tattoo on my leg in Tolkien's Elvish script. Sounds lovely.
Ah, impressive.
Peter Miller talks rubbish. He says Giles was absolutely vital to the 2005 win. Basically, Peter Miller's all about the Ashes. He doesn't care about anything other than Ashes cricket. Michael Wagner says Jeetan Patel is much better in England with the Duke ball than he is in the rest of the world with other balls. That's interesting. Katie Scott says... no, she's talking to Subtle Knife, so we'll ignore that. Michael Wagner says it sounds like Fred Titmus and Atif Nawaz need to read my article about Mark Craig. I didn't say anything bad about Mark Craig. It was Gary Naylor.
Yeah, well, nor did I.
Gary Naylor. And
Atif
Nawaz says it's not him either. I think it was basically
Manny,
who doesn't rate him, calls him Eddie Hemmings light, which to be fair, most people are Eddie Hemmings light in some respects. Nakul Pandey says Jeetan did a Murali Kartik, get annoyed at being passed over by short-sighted selectors and making a career in county cricket, although Deepak Patel did the other way. He went from county cricket to playing tests for New Zealand. And finally, Tony Severinson suggests that if you have My Sky, you could pause TV and watch on a 15-second delay.
There you go.
Which you could. Then we'd be in perfect time.
Or you could just find a slower stream if you're watching it online somewhere.
No, well, you can't watch unofficial streams. That's
I'm sure there's an official stream somewhere for this.
Yeah.
Cool. So are we all up to date?
We are up to date.
Wonderful.
Do we have...
well, yeah. You're listening to GorillaCricket.com, brought to you in association with HP Properties PLC for all your property needs. This is the 4th day of the third and final test match between Pakistan and New Zealand from Sharjah. You can hear the ringing in the background. That's because we're about to be speaking to Michael Wagner, who's going to tell us all about this performance. If you've got any questions for him, please do tweet us during the lunch break, and we'll pose them to him. But first of all, a very good morning, or it is morning as well for you, isn't it, Michael?
No, it's evening here.
It's evening. Well, a very good evening to you then, Michael. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. A lot better than I was at sort of the end of the first day.
Yeah, I was just thinking actually that this New Zealand. I mean, when New Zealand were coming to the Middle East, there was a sense that they would do a lot better than Australia had done against Pakistan. Australia didn't seem to have any depth to their strategy, whereas New Zealand, from the offset, despite the fact that they lost the first match, quite convincingly, they seemed like they were in it more. They came back very strongly in the second game, and that comeback has come almost full circle now, where they're, I guess it's fair to say, on the cusp of victory in this third game. I mean, how would you describe this kind of evolution to the point of victory?
Look, there's a couple of things here. I think one of it, New Zealand has a very, very astute coach, Mike Hesson. Look, I really rate him. I got to go on the South Africa tour where we got absolutely smashed. I got to see us getting bowled out for 43, I think it was, because I got hassles with security. I didn't come in until we had a couple of runs on the board. And all of the calls for Hesson to be sacked, but I watched him and I thought, this guy actually knows what he's doing. And he did some interesting things there, like he put a bowling machine up on top of a ladder to get the batsmen used to facing Morne Morkel. And one of the things he's done in this series is he's only given them 5-minute net times. The batsmen are only allowed 5 minutes in the nets and they've got to come out. Because he said the problem is that once you're settled in these conditions, it's not that hard to bat. But getting started is very difficult.
Yes,
So-
and if I could just pick up on that point, that's something that they've been taking advantage of very well against Pakistan this morning, actually, with the 3 very quick wickets. I mean, Yunus Khan. I mean, you can't take advantage of conditions and a ball quite that quickly, can you? Because Yunus Khan was given a peach of a delivery by Bolt this morning. First ball up. I mean, he was on the ground, and I mean, I guess it was quite close as revealed by the DRS. But even so, it was such a gorgeous delivery to leave. It deserved the wicket. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, that strategy seems very potent to me. And even now, I've got Not Fred with me as well, and I'm sure he'll agree that kind of, attacking the batsmen early. If you get them early, you got to really fancy yourself to get through the lineup.
Yeah, and also the ball tends to do whatever it's going to do. It does it very, very early, and it's important not to waste the first 3 or 4 overs of the innings, because that's when the ball's going to do anything that it does do.
5 minutes of net time for each batsman. That's where Australia went wrong. They probably had way too much time in the nets. That's it. That's you've just hit the nail on the head, Michael. That's what they needed to do, Australia. That's why they struggled so much. Is it kind of? I'm sorry. You probably wanted to mention a few other factors that have contributed to the situation.
Oh look, I think there have been, but I think that's a big part of it. The other thing that when I think he managed the Phil Hughes thing very well, and it can be a little bit, maybe it's a little cynical, but he got the players to use the grief well. Like there's a few players in the New Zealand team that are quite close friends, as I understand it, or were quite close friends with Phil Hughes, and some of them were really quite shaken by it. And Ross Taylor talked about, he said it was just like playing as a kid. You just couldn't focus on the game, and you couldn't think about your game, you just played the next ball. Well, that's exactly how you should be playing cricket in some ways. And by doing that, the players were all playing to their strengths in effect. I read an article on, I think we actually got hold of a sports psychologist and asked her about what the effects were of playing with the grief. And she said it has been known that there's a number of teams or players that have had there's been someone die in a close friend or a partner or something, and they've gone out and played the performance of their life because you can't focus on the game. You can only focus on the next ball, which is exactly what you should be focusing on. I think that certainly worked for New Zealand. But hearing that Mike Hesson apparently laid down the law to them and said there's no bounces, there's no celebrating the wickets, where any appeal's going to be a polite, there's no big appeals, and really drilled that into them. So they're really thinking about the grief and the process of going through that meant that they just they only switched on for the deliveries and then switched off. I think again that's it's a move of it's the reason why New Zealand actually throughout the last few series have got better as the series have gone on.
Yeah, so they kind of build on the knowledge that they pick up, I suppose, as they go through the tour. I thought it was a very classy move as well, the way New Zealand handled themselves, and of course Mark Craig on the back of what were, I'm sure, in other circumstances he would be beyond ecstatic to record 7 wickets on that Sharjah track, but he didn't celebrate it as much, and we'll come back to Mark Craig shortly. But I wanted to talk about when you talk about batting ball to ball, you can't not mention that incredible Brendan McCullum innings, which for me was the catalyst for this New Zealand. I guess it was one of the catalysts for New Zealand really taking the upper hand in this game. I mean, knocking over Pakistan for 350 is one thing. Coming back with this 680 record score is something quite different. And McCullum, for the longest time on day 2 of this Test match, the de facto day 2 of this Test match, he came out and played with the kind of intensity and just complete defiance that it felt so emotional, that knock. It didn't feel like he was particularly thinking. There were a few plays and misses as well, to deliveries that he probably shouldn't have been playing at all, but for the most part he leathered the ball around the ground, and it really felt like it felt like he was trying to, do you know what I mean? It almost surpassed the game itself. It felt like an emotional knock. And would you agree with that?
Absolutely. And I mean, he played some shots that he would never play in a Test match. I don't think. He's normally been fairly careful to not play any reverse shots to an off spinner. Yet Mohammad Hafiz got hit with by a couple of he had a couple of reverse sweeps off Mohammad Hafiz. And that's something he'd never really done in the past, because he generally won't hit against the spin, he'll hit with the spin. And it's just a case of, I think he was just playing each ball, focus on the ball, try and score as much as he could off it, and then he switched off. And it was very much. It didn't look like there was a tactical sort of thing. I didn't think he was going at. He was just played each ball on his merits, like he was at school. Like that. And that's Ross Taylor said it was like being back at school. You just saw the ball and hit the ball.
And he did that.
He did that, and so well. I mean, we know that Brendan McCullum can be devastating, but it's the first time we've really seen it. Other than, I think there was one innings where he came in at number 7 or number 8 when he was keeping, and he was batting with Jacob Oram, and they hit a really quick double century partnership. And I think this is the first time since then, and that was probably 2007. That he's actually done this. He's actually gone out and dominated a test match the way that we sort of know that he can, but never really have seen. And it was wonderful. It was wonderful to watch because it was so. It was raw. It wasn't calculating. It was just he was just trying to hit every ball as far as he could.
Absolutely, and I commented earlier today that it was a bit like a Jackson Pollock painting, really, the way he approached it. Everything, just chucking paint at the canvas, really, of art.
Michael, it's not Fred here. Sorry, it shouldn't really be overlooked just how. I mean, it was overshadowed, but Kane Williamson's knock was really something special as well. I've never seen him bat quite as well as that. Even though he's had some good scores and he had a good county season in England, but that was something special as well.
Yeah, look, I think for me it was probably the second best I've seen Kane Williamson bat. I saw him. He hit 100 in Zimbabwe, against Zimbabwe, on one of those tracks that you just can't score on. They were low, slow. It was a 250 sort of track, and he scored his 169 balls, something like that. And he didn't hit over the top once. He hit every ball along the ground, and it was just he just decided where he wanted to hit the ball, moved in the right position, and hit the ball there. And that was, you got a sense of the class of Kane Williamson. But I think this was actually a better. Well, it was an equally good innings because it was, he was doing the right thing for the team both times. He was keeping Brendan on strike when he was batting with Brendan, and then he accelerated his scoring rate personally when Ross Taylor was there. I still noticed that his 100 came up. I think that. He was 140 off as many balls as it took Brendan to get his double century.
Yeah.
But that still put him about the 15th fastest 15th highest strike rate of any century in New Zealand history. He was actually going pretty quickly. A strike rate of about 80 is quite exceptional.
Yes,
most certainly.
It was somewhat overshadowed by the brutality from the other end.
Yeah, but it was quite remarkable in its own right.
And obviously, in the gravitas of those two knocks really shouldn't be understated, because that morning, that second day, it was after the one day that had been shelved, and when the players came out, Pakistan in particular, for the first hour, they didn't really look like they knew what to do. They didn't look like they were there for a game of cricket. And absolutely no disrespect to the New Zealand bowlers, but I feel like Pakistan did throw it away markedly, and that's even more evident with the way that they've played in recent matches. They've not thrown it away. They've been so consistent at scoring all the way down. But to go from 281 for one to 351 all out, that's a huge. It's an amazing performance from the New Zealand bowlers, as well as a really poor performance from the Pakistan batsmen. And it was still there was a lot of sorrow about. There was a big somber, morose atmosphere, as well there should have been, but. Those two innings from the New Zealand batsmen, McCullum and Williamson, they kind of made everybody, almost kind of forced everybody to watch and enjoy cricket again. And it was a bit worrying at the beginning of that day, because we didn't, it felt like it's going to take an age. A lot of people, I imagine, might even thought to themselves in the heat of the emotion that they would probably may never be able to enjoy cricket the same way again, or certainly not as quick as that. But the two New Zealand batsmen came out, they played some extraordinary cricket shots, they forced the pace of the game, they wrestled the advantage away from the opposition in such a defiant manner that it made people take notice. We were thrilled just watching it. It was extraordinary. Even me, as a Pakistan fan, a die-hard Pakistan fan, just watching that innings, you couldn't help but smile, because it was genuinely good. As cheesy as it sounds, it was genuinely good for cricket, both of those innings. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and it was pleasing to watch. When you watch Mark Craig bowling, he doesn't get wickets in visually appealing manners. He gets his wickets by drifting the ball and getting it to bounce a little bit more, and forcing and making a batsman play what would be a good shot, make it look like a poor shot. And it's subtle, and it's not something that you watch and riveted. Whereas McCullum and Williamson, it was beautiful. There was a guy posting on one of my Facebook posts saying, "Look, I'm no homo, but I get a little aroused when I see Kane Williamson playing like that." and I think we can identify that sentiment. It's really something, watching batsmen dominating and doing it in that way. It was magical almost.
What was slightly perplexing to me about the way New Zealand came into this game, and I made the point when Williamson and McCullum were batting so brilliantly together, was that picking Vettori to bat at number 6, to come back into Test cricket and bat at number 6 when he's been a number 8 for most of his Test career, a good number 8, possibly a number 7, but to pull a guy out of nowhere and replace a batsman, Neesham, who hasn't done well on this tour, but has done reasonably well in the last year for New Zealand. I think at that tee when McCullum was 100 not out and New Zealand had got that excellent start, they probably were thinking, well, hang on a sec, we've got ourselves into a good position here, but we've got there's a lot of doubt about the extent of the tail and the length of the New Zealand batting order, and it's important for McCullum and Williamson and Taylor to make sure that they cash in on the good start and get the runs, because it's quite possible that 4 down could be all out in this situation.
I think that's a little harsh. I mean, to be honest, I think this New Zealand lineup has probably got the longest tail in world cricket, and possibly one of the strongest,
the deepest batting, you mean? Yeah.
In world cricket, and possibly one of the strongest tails in world cricket ever. I mean, it's these guys. You've got every player's got a 50 in that, a Test 50 in that lineup.
Yeah.
Trent Boult is the weakest batsman there, but I think it wouldn't be surprising if he ended his career averaging 20. When you've got your number 11 averaging 20, Dan Vettori, sure, it's he's played as a bowler mostly, but I mean his last 20 tests he's averaged 35. That's a reasonable sort of record for someone who's for someone to come in as a batsman, and he'd really, the last few games he had been playing more as a batsman than as a bowler.
I understand why they wanted him to come in as from a bowling point of view, but it just seems strange that I don't think, has he ever batted at 6 for New Zealand before?
Yeah, he's batted at 6 before. He has played as a batting all-rounder before, it's not the first time he's been picked in that role.
Yeah, it may have been asking a bit much to somebody coming off the injuries that he's had, particularly the Achilles injuries, and asking him to come in. But I mean, it was a bold selection because they thought they needed an extra spinner as opposed to the medium pace of Neesham, and they were going into the Test match saying, we want to win, we need to win, and we want to win, and we're going to make a statement that we're going to play an extra spinner on these tracks, and credit to them. It's absolutely it's worked tremendously well so far. Although the spinners haven't seen much ball in the second innings, but we may see that for the rest of the day. But it was an aggressive selection, and it's paying off, and that's good to see.
Yeah, and we're talking about spinners. Let's explore Mark Craig a little bit more now. I want to ask you, Michael, okay, how satisfying was that 7th really? Because, I mean, I don't know if you listened to our esteemed colleague Manny Cohen on day one, but he was scathing in his critique of Mark Craig. And we'll be honest here, I mean, on Guerrilla Cricket, I don't think many people here fancied Mark Craig very much, despite the fact that he had a very... quite an outstanding start to Test cricket. He got 8 wickets in that Test against the West Indies, was it? Yeah, that's right. So, despite that, he didn't look like he was going to create much threat. He didn't look anything near the caliber even Yasser Shah or Zulfikar Babar, who'd been wreaking havoc on sides that have been visiting the UAE. So we didn't think of him as a destroyer. He didn't think as a Pakistan fan, I wasn't worried about Mark Craig. I didn't think Mark Craig was going to be the one we'd have to worry about. Maybe Saudi, Vittori coming back maybe as an X factor, but Craig wasn't the one that we were worrying about. How satisfying was it for you as a supporter of Craig, right, to see him perform so beautifully and to come out with what are now the best bowling figures in the history of cricket at Sharjah?
Yeah, look, it was satisfying. I don't know that I'd call myself a supporter of Mark Craig. I think he was probably a reasonable option, given that his style was probably the one that was the most likely to be able to be adapted to playing there. But I didn't certainly think that he was, a lock-in. Oh, what a great selection. I certainly wasn't in that camp.
See, I thought his selection might have been heavily weighed on the fact that he's the kind of bowler that can get through a lot more overs, that can carry more workload. Rather than be the most potent bowler in the world. I suspect he's the kind of bowler where New Zealand could chuck the ball to him for 35 overs a day and say, right, get through him, son. And he would.
No, see, well, I mean, that's more Daniel Vittori is the bowler that does that. Although not recently, but that's traditionally. Daniel Vittori, he takes a wicket every 90 overs, every 90 deliveries or something, every 15, he's not, Daniel Vittori's not someone that blasts out teams. But he only goes at 2 and over, so he ends up with reasonable numbers. Mark Craig is a little bit more. If you think Pakistan terms, is Abdul Rahman that they had? There was a left armour that was that the guy's name?
Abdul Rahman.
He looked rubbish until the conditions are right for him, and then he was a world beater. And you'd watch this guy and you'd think, where's his next wicket coming from? And then it would go right, and you think, how could anyone stop him? And Mark Craig's a little bit like that. He, if he gets the ball to drift, and he starts to get, and he starts to be able to get some variable bounce, he becomes very difficult. He's more a bounce bowler than someone that turns the ball a lot, but he does get a lot of drift, and he's got the ability to drift the ball and not turn it, or drift the ball and turn it. So you're watching it in the air, it looks like it's going to turn, you're playing for the turn, and then it just bounces a little bit more and takes the top edge. And he gets a lot of wickets caught at slip, like he did there were 3 caught at slip and 1 caught keeper, from memory. That's not where you get your wickets as an off-spinner. You get your wickets on inside edges into the stumps or LBWs, but he's a bounce bowler more than a turn. He gets his wickets from bounce more than from turn, and from drift in particular. And so when you got that condition where the ball started to drift around, all of a sudden he goes from being, a club trundler to being breathtaking. And that's really what happened there. You watch. I went through all of those dismissals, went through them ball by ball, because I wanted to understand why it was that he took wickets there and he hadn't previously. Every single wicket was either the batsman beaten by drift, or the batsman beaten by extra bounce, or a combination of both. There wasn't anything that was to do with the turn, and sometimes that was because they were set up. Sometimes it's because they weren't thinking, possibly because of the situation that was in. But it was very much a case of a different type of spin bowling. It wasn't your Saqlain Mushtaq thinking a batsman out by spinning it both ways, or the big turn. It's not that sort of thing, and you've just got to think about him differently, because he's not one of those sort of spin bowlers.
In fact, he's actually an old-fashioned off-spinner. Off-spinners bowling to right-handers, historically speaking, I'm talking about in the 50s and 60s, would regularly bowl round the wicket, where on wickets whether there was turn or not much turn, so that if the ball was turning, you've got a chance of bowling people or getting LBWs. But the straight ball is also a dangerous ball, because if you play for turn and it's not there, you're gonna nick to the keeper or the slips. That's what off spinners traditionally used to do in the days before the big rip off spinners, as you say, like Saqlain and Graham Swan. And it's a refreshingly old-fashioned type of off-spin bowling that we haven't seen for a while, and you don't need to be a huge spinner of the ball to get wickets. It's sometimes the lack of spin will do for batsmen as well, and I think he showed that certainly in the first innings of this game.
Well, the centre to the edge is only about 8 centimetres.
Yeah.
That's
how much you need to turn it. Yeah.
If you can turn it that much, you're doing enough to, and even less than that to get an outside middle and get someone caught on the boundary.
Yeah.
The amount of times that the spin bowler will get someone caught on the boundary and the batsman says, "Oh, it was a bad shot." And yes, but it was also came off the outside middle or hit a little bit lower on the blade than they were expecting, or a little bit higher, and that's why it got caught instead of going for 6.
Because boundary fielders can be attacking fielders for spin bowling. You only need to, as you say, to get them just off centre on the bat, and the ball's going to go up in the air to a catching fielder. It doesn't matter. He doesn't have to be 5 yards from the bat to be a catching fielder. Boundary fielders are attacking fielders to spin bowlers.
That's where the expression in club cricket, buying your wicket, comes from sometimes, isn't it?
A wicket is a wicket.
Absolutely.
And if you defeat the batsman who's having a slog, it might go a long way, but if it goes straight up in the air, you're still going to get a wicket.
No, most definitely. I agree that, I'll go back to Michael's point that it's not the most aesthetic way of getting your wicket, but as you say, a wicket's a wicket, and at the end of the day you need 20 of them to win a match, and that's where New Zealand stand now. They've got 13 Pakistan wickets right now. They need another 7. Pakistan have to defend out another 5 sessions. They've lost some firepower. They've lost Yunus Khan, who you'd think is, if they were to survive this test match, he'd be one of the people who'd have to eat up a lot of deliveries. They still do have Misbah, Shafiq and Sarfraz to come, but beyond that, Pakistan, conversely to New Zealand, have a very long tail. So I mean, I'm going to make you play out the worst possible scenario for yourself here, Michael. I want you to describe to me how you think Pakistan could save this test match and hence the series.
Well, the worst possible scenario is actually worse than that for New Zealand. Pakistan get a 60-run lead and pull New Zealand out for 54. And it's entirely possible.
I think the 250 million people in Pakistan will take the draw, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm sure they will, but I can. Look, I've watched enough New Zealand cricket to be able to say that we can find a way of losing games from all sorts of positions. Look, I think it's going to be difficult to bat out that amount of time, partially because just in terms of you've got 62 overs left today. So that'll be 74 overs, then 90 tomorrow, which takes it past, 100, past 160. So you're going to get the last 4 or 5 overs will be with the third new ball, if it goes that long. So if they're just defending the whole time, it's going to be too hard to defend that far if they're not scoring runs. Now, if they are scoring runs, then they're going to be offering up opportunities. So it's the option of 3 new balls is a very appealing one, and particularly if you've got Mark Craig, Trent Boult, and Ish Sodhi playing, who can get through the overs quite quickly, and if the batsmen aren't attacking it, you can get through the overs quite quickly, and if you knock off that over from 35 to 80, that 45 overs of dead cricket, if you can get through those really quickly, Brendan McCullum might be able, and the bowlers all had a rest. He might be able to get through his overs even faster, which could put some real pressure on. I think if Pakistan, they need this partnership to go well, and then they need Asad Shafiq to actually score some runs that he really is capable of. I mean, I think he's a fantastic batsman, and I've been surprised that he hasn't really done much in this series.
No, he got a century against Australia, if I'm not wrong. In fact, did he get 2 against Australia? No,
and look, he hasn't really had many opportunities. He's only actually had 3 innings, and he was not out in one of them. So I guess I'm being a bit harsh. He's averaging 48 for the series, but he hasn't looked like the batsman that I've seen him looking like in the past. I think he's a wonderful cricketer, but he's someone that could bat long. I don't know that Sarfraz Ahmed is going to be able to do that a second time. Look, I think he's a very brave batsman, and he's gonna score a lot of runs. But I don't think this is the sort of conditions that are tailor-made for him. But you never know. But I think it's really these two and Asad Shafiq are really, they need to score big, and it's possible. We've seen teams save games from this situation lots of times in the past. But this pitch is starting to do stuff.
You say we've seen teams do this in the past. Most recently, memorably for you, I would imagine, was the New Zealand versus India game, where New Zealand were 5 down in the second innings, still well short of India, and McCullum hit his triple century, and Watling hit a century, and Neesham hit a century. They were in a similarly bad position as Pakistan are in at the moment.
Probably was a similarly bad position. I mean, it was we're bowled out for 192, and then India scored 430. But I think I don't know. I think that that was exceptional. I mean, part of the issue there is that the Indian bowlers just really didn't have. They didn't look like they had much ability to actually threaten the New Zealand batsmen, and that one outstanding spell from Ishant Sharma. There were a few sort of freakish deliveries, freakish dismissals in that when New Zealand lost the wickets in the first innings. I don't know, and I mean likewise in this one, you've got Mark Craig is unlikely to repeat that unless the ball starts pooping around for him again. He's unlikely to rip through Pakistan, but fourth day, fifth day, it's not going to be an easy pitch to bat on. Whereas New Zealand were in the third day, in the second day actually, day 2. So the pitch was a lot easier to bat on, I think, in Wellington than it is here in Sharjah. Well, it's going to be in Sharjah, and I think the extra bounce here as well means that when it starts to break up, it gets even more dangerous.
Absolutely, and I guess it's ominous for Pakistan. They've already lost 3 big wickets, and Boult has been the destroyer. Now, if this game continues to follow that pattern of play, then New Zealand will complete the victory here, and they'll even up the series 1-1, which will make it even more exciting for the follow-up series in January, which is again going to be Pakistan this time visiting New Zealand, and that's going to be great. I know we've got the one-day internationals and the T20s to come in this series, but let's look beyond that a little bit. Let's look to that series in New Zealand. Will New Zealand fancy themselves to be even to? I mean, they're playing great cricket right now, but would they fancy themselves to really take it to Pakistan from the get-go on their home turf?
Yes. I think the current New Zealand team fancies themselves to beat anyone in New Zealand.
Well, let me rephrase that then. Okay, let me rephrase that. Would anything less than a 3-0 or even just anything less than a series victory against Pakistan in New Zealand be unacceptable for New Zealand at this point?
I think probably. I think New Zealand the New Zealand fans particularly would expect the series victory. I don't think it needs to be a whitewash. I mean, there are some very good players in this Pakistani team, and the New Zealand public would actually understand that. But I think we'll need to beat Sri Lanka. The one factor there with Pakistan is that there is the World Cup on the horizon, and so if we were to lose some tests. That maybe wouldn't be quite such a tragedy.
If you were to win the one-day series instead. So I think it's 3 again, if I'm not wrong, in January.
Yeah, I thought it was. I'm just looking through the schedule and I can't see them there, but
I mean, I follow your thought, which is that they're expected to win, but if they were to win the one-dayers in between with the ones they're going to play in a moment following this test against Pakistan, and then the games they'll play against Sri Lanka, so there's more of an importance on them, especially with the World Cup on the horizon. And just before we throw to the questions we've got from Twitter, because we've got a few tweets for you in a moment, who do you think is going to win that one-day series in the Middle East, considering Pakistan were dominated dominated in the one-dayers by Australia. But, God, you just never know with them, do you?
No, you never do. I mean, one of the rules I had when I was doing a little bit of cricket betting is don't bet on any game involving Pakistan.
If
Unless you've heard something.
If that rule existed around the world, I suspect there would be no problems with Pakistan cricket at all. But anyway, do continue, Michael.
But I mean, they are very unpredictable. New Zealand do have a pretty good one-day squad. I guess the question mark at the moment with New Zealand is death bowling. And if Vittori's back and able to do that role, it makes New Zealand look a lot stronger. The way that Kyle Mills is used will be interesting. I mean, he's a very good bowler. It's just hard to see how the team fits together, how the bowling lineup fits together. The interesting one there as well, the thing that's the biggest interest for me is will Adam Milne come through unscathed? I don't think he's come through a series without being injured yet. He's the fastest bowler in the world in all likelihood. I don't think anyone else bowls regularly above 152, 153 Ks. And at that pace, even dead wickets, he's able to hurry up batsmen and cause problems for them. But he just gets injured so regularly. So, if he's fit for the whole series, that could be decisive. But if he gets injured and New Zealand's having to start rearranging their bowling lineup, and that's it's interesting. I would back New Zealand to win those series, but we have shown the ability in the past to do completely differently in Test cricket and one-day cricket. If we get thrashed in the Test series, then you'd expect us to probably win the one-dayers and vice versa.
You're quite like Pakistan in that regard, I have to say.
Just one quick question. We've got about a minute before they come back after lunch. Nakul Pandey asks, is Brendan McCullum likely to remain as an opener now that he's got his big, his big score, his 200 in this game, or will he go back to 5 and Guptill, or I would say possibly Rutherford would come in as an opener?
They've said before the series, they said that they see McCullum as a good option as an opener in Asia. And when we're playing in Asia from now on, McCullum's likely to open.
Right.
But outside of Asia, they want someone who's got a technique more suited to
the moving
a ball that seems around at the start.
I like that.
I think
actually.
they'll look at him batting at number 5 again when he's in New Zealand.
See, I'd like that, because there's a bunch of traditionalists, I'm sure, around the world who think, well, no, you've got to take your best 11 and they should be able to play everywhere, and you must be able to, if you're a good batsman, you should be able to play in all conditions and such and such and such. But I like the idea that New Zealand is willing to embrace this idea that with the amount of cricket that's played around the world, it makes sense to have different players playing different roles in different conditions. Horses for courses, absolutely.
Yeah.
Michael, thank you so much for joining us, mate. The lunch interval is all about over. I would wish you best of luck in this game, but I think you don't really need it at this point. You're flying already, but it's been a pleasure speaking to you, mate. If this game goes on to tomorrow, perhaps we could have another chat with you. But if not, thank you so much for your contributions to Guerrilla Cricket over this series. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, mate.
Absolutely, it's been a pleasure being on.
Cheers. Thank you so much, Michael.
Bye, Michael.
There we go, and we thank Michael. We're going to have a change in the commentary box just before the second session of today's play, which means you're going to listen to about 3 minutes of everybody's favourite theme tune.
Guerrilla cricket. Whoa. Guerrilla cricket. Whoa.
Straight back on.
Take large, man the barricades, patrol the covered boundary. At last the time has come, this is a cricketing emergency. Hear this call to arms for every cricket revolutionary. Take up your bats and stumps for the test match insurgency. At first they tried to silence us, but we would not be silenced. They threatened us with lies, so we threatened them with violence. Che Guevara, Sangakkara, Joseph Stalin, Douglas Jardine, Robespierre, Carol Hare, Vladimir Lenin.
Oh, I see. I thought you meant
O'Brien Kevin.
So we are back. This is straight after lunch. It's a good chat with Mike Hall at lunchtime. First ball after lunch. It's bowled by Trent Bolton. He's bowling at Misbah.
You know, the bear isn't normally a hard taskmaster, but basically our producer is about to come back with a hot breakfast, and he says I have to go on air.
Well, I'm waiting for my hot breakfast too.
Are we going to do a runner once it arrives?
Well, we're going to have to sort something out because I want it hot, not cold. Although it can be stuck in the microwave. That was outside half the bat, went to a slip. All on the ground, there's no run. 30 for 3, Pakistan. Trail by 309. And it's been a good test for New Zealand. Trent Bolt comes into bowl and Misbah. Another edge. Bounces just in front of second slip, who is Mark Craig. No run.
So what's the chat in the lunch interval? Because they're smelling victory, famous victory. So what was, what's been the team talk?
And the team talk is go out there, play hard, and try and get us over today. It'll be my bet.
So yeah, but what kind of bowling, etc.? What kind of field?
Well, I think Bolt and Saudi would have only bowled 5 overs each before lunch. They've had another 40 minutes off. The ball is still quite new, so I imagine they'll go for another 4 or 5 each. And then into Sodhi and Craig and Vittori. They've got 3 spinners for this test, which is handy. Left alone by Misbah outside the off stump. And the great thing is they've got a leggy. They've got an offie, and they've also got Vittori, who's orthodox left arm, so he's going to turn away from the bat as well. So they've got all options covered for right and left-handers.
I think it's indicative of what a brave man you are that you left the studio with Gary and I, and you've had about another half an hour of more intensive art chat, and you've come back in and put yourself in the middle of us.
Yeah, I know. Less art chat this time, boys and girls. That one's through to the keeper, and there's no run.
Yes, just to tell the listeners, we don't just do it for show, do we? We actually talk about it outside as well.
Too arty-farty.
Gary has revealed himself as a massive Courbet fan.
Yeah.
And we've both been swooning over the Pietà.
Yes, as one must.
Michelangelo's
of course, I know none of this, so...
That's nonsense.
I outed myself as having written an essay on Courbet's funeral at Ornan, which is one of my favourite paintings ever. You can tweet us at Guerrilla Cricket about Courbet, or indeed about the cricket.
More about the cricket would be good.
Exactly.
Bolt is at the end of his run. There's a change in the field. They're putting in a leg slit now from Misbah, which is quite interesting. And Bolt is going to come around the wicket. And there's no run.
Do New Zealand have about the most varied attack? Because not only have they got those spin options covered, but they've got a left arm opening bowler and a right arm opening bowler, and both left and right are going round the wicket and over the wicket at will. So
mixing it up.
Yeah, they're doing what I always think is the most important thing in cricket, which is making things happen.
They're true, and especially out here where the pitches are quite dead, they've got a lot of options, haven't they? Short ball ducked underneath by Misbah through the keeper. There's no run. Good chat.
Yeah, it was really interesting actually how Michael attributed the success of this New Zealand team largely to their coach and his ability to kind of adapt the side over time. He pointed out that one of the reasons that New Zealand gets so good as the series goes on is because their coach will throw in little red herrings to their training. So, for example, the batsmen were only allowed to bat in the nets for about 5 minutes each, because his reasoning was this pitch is very difficult to get yourself in on as a batsman, but once you're in, it's very difficult to get you out. So what he wanted to do was get the batsman into the practice of kind of playing out those early overs where you're going to struggle, where you're going to have to get used to the pace of the pitch, where you're going to have to deal with this ball that's zipping around off the spinner, from the spinners and the seamers. So, but once you're used to it and the ball gets a little bit older, it gets easier to bat. It makes sense, and he attributed a lot of the success of the New Zealand side and their progress to that.
I'll come back with something on that after this ball.
We have a new bowler, and the first ball is short and pretty shit, in fact, and it's been banged away to the deep square leg boundary for one of these.
2 + 2 is a remember.
That made life about as difficult as it could be for you, couldn't it?
Yeah, it does, and the bowler is...
Chris Gale did, Mark Craig did. Hit his first ball for 6, his first ball in Test cricket for 6.
Next ball is just defending the offside, no run.
That's brilliant. Again, he's making life so difficult. It's the longest jingle you've got to play. You've got to play the 4 jingle in between. All he had to do was get out in between to make it even harder.
A review. Get out on review.
He's in again.
It was worked down to long leg. Fielder chased it down. Is that Tim Southey? It might be.
Left armour.
Left armour, no. So
it's Bolt.
It's Bolt.
And you're through that phase, Nigel. You've done it beautifully, man. You are, if I can refer to the theme of the day, you are an artist.
Oh, thank you.
Well done.
That was 2 runs.
Would you think he'd be more like Manet or Monet, Gary?
Manny.
Yeah, he's a Manny.
Manet, Monet, Manny. That's the one.
Moaning Manny, maybe. Here comes Mark Craig. He's into the bowl to Hafiz. He just defends that back down the track to the bowler, and there's no run.
Talking about training for the difficult parts of an innings, I was always struck by something that Daley Thompson said about training for decathlon, and he claimed it was the most difficult thing to train for, not as we would expect because you've got 10 disciplines, which are good.
Craig bowls. That one turns a little bit outside off stumps, a little bit short. If he plays off the back foot into the covers, there's no run.
Because I think he did not like the pole vault, and he wasn't so good at the pole vault. So the pole vault is what he had to practice more. So he spent more time doing the thing he didn't like and he wasn't good at than the thing he did like and he wasn't good at. And the mental energy to do that day in, day out.
Played back to the bowler.
Is he out?
Appealing for
He's
a
out.
catch. Hafiz, they're going to go upstairs to see if it's a bump ball. Craig is convinced it's out. I thought it looked like a bump ball, but maybe not.
Given.
He has been given.
He's out.
And Hafiz is walking off, so no. Hafiz has just chipped one back to the bowler. We've seen that a couple of times in the UAE. And bad news, bloody hell. Pakistan there was no chance of it being a bump ball. He's just chipped it straight back to the bowler. Craig's got his first wicket in the second over after lunch. Pakistan in deep,
do you know why he got out?
Deep trouble.
Because he's spending too much time in the nets, clearly.
Yeah.
Clearly. Anyway, this is the jingle.
On your bike, mate.
I mean, I think that's indicative of Pakistan's frame of mind. They've been fantastic for months, but this is a match too far, it seems.
It's not just a match too far. I mean, eventually it happens, isn't it? You're going to have a bad day in the office, and they had one the other day. I think there was extraneous services for that, but having got themselves into this position, it's going to be bloody hard to dig themselves out.
Because that's a man who made 197 in the first innings, and it wasn't a kind of check drive, and it wasn't a ball that stopped in the pitch. It was almost a bit of catching practice, and there was no reason at all to play that shot, and he just hit it straight back to the bowler, who would have had a more difficult time dropping it than catching it.
Indeed.
What do you know about Safas?
It's Shafiq.
Heaven, I'm in heaven, and my heart beats so that I can hardly speak.
Oh, is there anybody out there? Is there anybody out there? Hello.
Hello, we're back and it's all over.
We're really
all
happy
over.
it's been abandoned.
Hurrah! Yay! But, however, we are going to do one little last thing for you. We're going to play the wonderful tunes of Mog and Jeff Perkins, which are the country music little songs that we made up about the bear turning to whiskey at lunchtime. And we're going to play... Which one are we going to play first, Bear?
Ballad of the Bourbon Bear.
Which is by...
Grandma ran the tractor into our distillery shed. Not a lot of damage done, just a couple of chickens dead. The booze no longer secure, the wildlife's getting frisky, especially now a bear has started on the whiskey.
Woohoo! Yeah! Ooh, that's Jeff Perkins, and next is what's the next one called?
Mog Bear Whiskey.
Bear Whiskey. Okay, here we go.
You told me it was 90 seconds, but it's only 30.
Bear alone with a whiskey and a microphone. You can be sure what you'll get. The bear'll get maggoted.
Well, he is well and truly maggoted alongside me here. Well, they might, of course, go straight into, I suppose, a contest for Jingle of the Year, I imagine.
Absolutely.
Been done so quickly. That's about it from us, but it's also it from the wonderful Chasing Willow.
Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Is that it?
Not quite.
Okay.
I would like to say that the jingles are amazing. I don't know what they're for. Well, Bear long ago tried to have.
No, didn't try to have.
He did have a
Successfully
whiskey.
had a very, very large whiskey and ice.
No. Well, I never doubted that.
Good.
I have faith in you. But Bear used to have some.
Problems?
Let's be kind. No, Bear used
Don't
to
have
be a notable exception with a bunch of electronic music as his commentator jingle, and at least one of those should be a Bear jingle.
Oh,
Because
what?
They are darling.
I am the
them.
greatest one.
No. What
Oh.
about Eat It? It must be the Eat It jingle.
No,
Come on, find the Eat It jingle.
We don't have the Eat It jingle.
No,
Come on, you can
we don't
find
need.
it.
We don't need that one.
No? All right then.
No, I remember the one that Bear chose for himself was. I'm good at electronic music. That's my background. I could not identify the particular bit of electronic music that Bear has chosen to represent himself.
What did you? I don't remember that at all.
It didn't take off, I don't think.
No,
I don't think it
Eat
did.
It was much better.
Because we had some rather sticky bit of ZZ Top for Lizzie.
Oh.
Something got legs or so.
Oh yeah, that goes back. Yeah.
We had. I remember Atif had a jingle and Hannah had a jingle because I remember sending them in.
What was Atif's jingle?
It's-
Ladies' Night. No, that was Ralph. That was Ralph.
That was Ralph.
That was Ralph.
No, Atif's was called something disco, and it came from a movie called Party Monster.
Party Monster. That sounds like Atif.
There's Macaulay Culkin with a bunch of murder stuff.
Okay.
There's some murder stuff and drug use.
What about my jingle? See if I
What
can
was
remember
your
one.
jingle? Wasn't it Bagpuss?
No.
You
remember
are
my
very
jingle?
Bagpuss-like.
I'm not in the least bit like Bagpuss. I mean, I like cats, but I'm not like Bagpuss.
You sleep a lot.
I like sleep. Who doesn't like sleep?
There's a lot of people who don't like sleep.
Why? Why on earth wouldn't you like sleep? No Sleep Till Brooklyn, wasn't it?
Oh, yes.
I remember that.
These probably all get copyright claims now. From
Yeah,
fucking
probably.
YouTube, but
Probably.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, none of the new commentators have got their own jingles. Tony is waving goodbye, bye.
Well, Tony
bye,
Bishop, we
bye.
could get a theme tune for one of the Paul movies that he does.
Some terrible organ music.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to. Like
probably
that.
it's a wacky disco.
It would be. It would be terrible organ music, I'm afraid.
In it.
Yeah. Indeed. So that's about it. Have you got anything else? Do you want to thank your mother and father for
letting you on,
and
letting me
people letting you out of Russia? And
no, I did. I was very surprised to be let in onto this island to begin with.
Why?
No, that's my joke that
Oh.
the likes of me should not be traveling.
It's probably true. Probably true. And if you're sitting next to her on a plane, be very afraid. There's no room for you because their hair. What do you do with your hair on a plane?
This.
Like she does now.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, being next to me on a plane is very handy because I'm usually by the emergency escape.
Oh, really?
Yes, and I do intend to.
Are you a scared flyer?
No.
Oh, you just want to get out quickly?
No, it means that I do volunteer myself to rescue everyone.
Oh, yeah. I've done that before.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it also helps that you're nearest and you can survive.
I just run.
Anyway, we should call it a day then, unless you have anything else you
I
want to say.
wanted to thank the people who have not threatened my life. I expected at least a modicum of rotten vegetables and the odd death threat.
On the Twitter sphere?
Yeah, no, I thought I would have. I will have angered the populace.
You've only said cock, womble, and cunt bucket a couple of times. I think, if I recall rightly.
I haven't said the latter one. See you next Tuesday. I have not.
I think you have. I think you might have done.
Really?
Anyway, we should call it a day. We're all going. We might be back to do some India, West Indies, but so keep an eye on that. That's very big might. But apart from that, we'll be back for South Africa against England on
Boxing Day.
Boxing Day.
When you had too much fucking turkey, which we all would have done.
And I am almost due to go home. This
hear people
time,
weeping.
This time tomorrow, I'm going to be reading some kind of drivel in Luton Airport.
Luton Airport.
What's the
later,
temperature in
3
Moscow
o'clock
at
in
the
the
moment?
morning.
Something like this. Like
Oh,
maybe
really?
3
Okay.
below.
There's no snow and.
It might be snow, but who the fuck cares about snow? It's not a big
Well,
deal.
no, we don't get enough
get it.
here.
We don't get it. We don't like it much.
Mind
I don't
you
like
get
snow. I don't
you
like
get a
ice.
smattering of snow here and it fucks everything up.
Snow's
Everything
right.
stops, nothing works.
Anyway, So it's good night from Jenna.
Good night.
Good night from the bear.
Good night.
Good night from me. Ta-da!
See you later.
Bye.
Guerrilla crickets. Whoa. Guerrilla crickets. Whoa. Guerrilla. Take guard, man the barricades, patrol the cover boundary. At last the time has come. This is a cricketing emergency. Hear this call to